Entitled mom demands $1,500 after I give her a puppy. So this happened around a month ago. I have 2 golden retrievers and they recently had a puppy. Not one pup, they had 7. And I wrote that because we'll be focusing on this dog. I gave the rest to friends and family members. It's already pretty difficult to look after my 2 dogs, and a third one was driving me crazy. So I decided to give the dog to someone, for free. I asked a couple of friends and family members, and my mom said that she had a friend who was looking for a dog for months now. So I messaged her, and as she said, she would take it. Great! We planned on meeting in a park so the dog would run around and such. When I head there, I see Entitled mom and her son. I walk up to them with my pup in my arms. They look at the dog, the kid plays with her while we talk. The following is what happened. Entitled mom to their son. "Did you like the dog, honey?" The kid nods while he's playing with the dog. Me. "Alright, so can I give you some dog food and a leash for giving this puppy a good home?" Entitled mom. "That's it? I mean, I looked up what dogs needed to be taken care of, and this is a bit too less, don't you think?" Me, confused. "Yeah, this is not enough, but I thought you could buy the rest. Normally when you get a dog from a shelter or anything, you gotta get these things with your own money." Entitled mom. "Well, I thought I could get some more things from you since I'm friends with your mom. I looked at dog products on eBay, and I thought you could give me around $1,500 so we could get the products." Me. "What? No, that's not how this works. I have 2 dogs in my house, and I need my money for rent." Entitled mom says that she doesn't have that much money, so she won't get the dog, and I thought that was it. Then Entitled mom walks over to their son and tells him that they're not gonna get the dog. The brat started screaming and rolling on the floor. Entitled mom is angry now and walks over to me. "See? You made him cry. If you had just given me the dog, this wouldn't have happened." Me. "Are you kidding me? You're the one who asked for $1,500. I'm not gonna give you $1,500 just because you took my dog." Everyone can hear us now. After a while of this, a policeman came and asked what happened. I had the dog in my arms. Entitled mom. "He's trying to steal my dog. He stole her from my son." She pointed at the kid who was still crying. Me. "Are you kidding me? I was trying to give this dog to you, but you wanted money for taking her." Me, speaking to the policeman, explaining everything. The cop was confused as there was no proof of our stories until I showed him a picture where my dog was pregnant and another where the puppy was born. He believed me and I left. The woman was screaming at me when I was leaving. I immediately called my mom to tell her everything, and that was that. Edit. Everyone's asking, so I'm just gonna type it here. I gave away the pup to a college friend a few days ago. She's at a good home, and I plan on visiting her every couple of weeks. Speaking of dogs, have you ever had a dog? And if so, what kind? Please let us know. Teacup Chihuahuas for the win. Entitled Dad wants a 1-year-old to go on a fast roller coaster. We've got Entitled Dad, we've got Worker 1 and Worker 2. So for a little backstory, this happened before all the craziness started on my birthday and I went to Fun Haven. It's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, but in Canada. There's a small roller coaster in there called Crazy 8 that is 4+ and goes super fast in a figure 8, and I decided to go on it. Now to the actual story. I was waiting in line and in front of me was Entitled Dad holding his barely 1-year-old. When it was Entitled Dad's turn to go on this is how the conversation between them went down. Worker 1. Excuse me, sir, how old is your son? Entitled Dad. He's 1 year old. Worker 1. Sorry, he has to be at least 4 years old to ride this roller coaster. Points to the sign. Entitled Dad. No, I said he's 4 years old. Worker 1. Sir, you can't just change his age. Entitled Dad's kid looks nothing close to 4 anyways. Entitled Dad. Please let me on. Worker 1. Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to go to a different game or ride that you can do with your kid, as it's not safe for him to go on this ride. Entitled Dad says with impatience, What do you mean? Let me on. He starts trying to get onto the roller coaster. At this point, everyone in line, including myself, is getting impatient. Worker 1. Sir, leave right now, or I'm gonna have to call security. Entitled Dad walks away. Forget you. Worker 1. Goodbye, sir. Have a nice day. Entitled Dad. Excuse me? Why are you telling me goodbye and have a nice day? Literally said this word for word, and it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. My friend and I were cracking up, but he wasn't fully English, so maybe he didn't understand sarcasm / being nice to the customer, no matter what. Worker 1 ignores entitled dad at this point and is letting me and other people on the roller coaster. After a little while, I decide to go on it again, and there's a new worker at the roller coaster, and I was in line for it, and coincidentally, look who's there right in front of me. Entitled dad. Worker 2. How old is your son? Entitled dad. 4 years old. Worker 2. Okay, step right ahead. This is where I come in, most likely stopping that kid from getting flown off the roller coaster because of him being way too small and not fitting in the restraint properly. Me. Excuse me, that kid that you let on is only 1. His dad lied about his age. Then I continue to explain what happened before with the other worker. Worker 2. Okay, thanks for letting me know. It wouldn't be my fault if he got hurt though, as he lied about his age. After letting me on the roller coaster, I see her talking in a walkie-talkie, probably calling security and confirming what I said has actually happened with her coworker. Worker 2 walks up to entitled dad. Sir, you have to get off this roller coaster as your son is too young to ride it. What the heck do you mean? He's 4 years old. Worker 2. We have security coming right now, so if you don't get off, you will be escorted off the property. No, I don't want to move. Okay, you will be in a second. Entitled dad. Yeah, sure. Start the roller coaster. Security shows up. The security didn't even have to say a word, and entitled dad just bolts out of there. Speaking of roller coasters, have you ever been on a roller coaster? And if so, which one? Please let us know. 6 Flags for the win. Ma'am, how'd you even get in here? It's my first time on here, so bear with me, and I think this fits here. This takes place about 8 or so years ago, but I can tell this story every so often and it's still fresh to me. I worked as a contract IT consultant. Basically, I worked for an IT group that got contracts to help with IT projects that were too large for the in-house IT department. We were the boots on the ground while they continued day-to-day operations. Most of the time, we worked with a library in a major city that had multiple locations. They would send 1 or 2 of their in-house techs with us to let us in the locations, branches, to show us where stuff was and what was being upgraded or replaced, then let us have at it. I should note that the in-house techs only work on the computers and not for any of the branches themselves, thus they can't check out books or anything else for people. About halfway through this one project, we're going to a branch that was under construction. The outside was being completely redone, with scaffolding and tools all over the place. It was surrounded by a chain link fencing and several barriers of rope/construction tape to allow workers in but keep the general public out, along with lots of signs posting "Caution Construction." The inside of the building had been painted recently, so there were no tables, no chairs, and the bookshelves were completely empty with thin clear plastic painter's tarps over them. Not a book, computer, or DVD in sight. This will come into play in a bit. We've got me. We've got Craig, the in-house tech. We've got Fred, the construction crew foreman, and the old bat. Early in the morning, Craig and our 5 techs, including me, showed up at the branch before the construction crews got there. We met outside, then we all went into the building together. Craig had an odd look when we all walked in. To our surprise, there were no computers or furniture to be seen anywhere in the building. Craig, not wanting to tell us to go home, contacted his boss by phone, who said to wait. Maybe they would show up in an hour or so, as sometimes deliveries were late. Plus, if they sent us home, they would have to reschedule this branch and pay us for another day's work to come back. So we waited. Then Fred, the foreman, showed up, vest, hard hat, and all, along with his crew. Fred talked to Craig, saying he told the library contact that the furniture wasn't finished yet and maybe it would be done by today, but he'd get a couple guys right on it. Another call to the boss. Wait some more, maybe they'll be quick. Okay, but still no computers. While Craig is on the phone and before Fred walks off, Fred. Let Craig and your guys know. If you need to leave, let me know. I'll get hard hats for you, so you can go out through the side, since it's the only way in or out. Me. Okay, cool. Thanks, Fred. If a delivery truck gets here, it might be our computers. Let us know. If those get here, then we might need them. Fred, with a friendly smile. Yup, no problem. After a couple hours of just us twiddling our thumbs waiting for the furniture and computers, Craig and I were talking about video games, as guys do, and he stops mid-sentence and looks to his left with a face stranger than this morning's grimace. I'm sure mine wasn't any better. This little old lady had walked right through the open front doors of the building, walking past all of the workers outside like they weren't even there. I'd have thought she just came from church with the way she was dressed. Dark cotton open front sweater with a white undershirt and shin-length skirt with her gray hair all done up. I'm sure both Craig and me had the same thought of, what the heck? We both walk up to her. Conversation as follows. Craig, ma'am, can I help you? Old Bat, gruffly, yes, I just want a DVD. Pointing to the back of the room at an empty bookshelf. Craig, ma'am, there's nothing back there. This library branch is closed. Old Bat, oh, it's fine. I just want a DVD. They're right back there. Pointing again. Craig, ma'am, the shelves are empty. Look around. There's nothing here. Well, you work here. Pointing a crooked finger and slightly poking at his ID badge on a lanyard that has the library logo on it. So, show me where they're at. Craig, ma'am, we are IT. We don't work at this branch. We only work on the computers. And this is a general employee badge. Even the administrators have them. See? You do work here. I want a DVD. Craig, frankly, none of us work here, ma'am. There aren't even any computers here to check you out. Look, as he gestures to the empty space where the checkout would normally be. There's no furniture, no staff. Didn't you read the multiple signs on the way in? This branch is closed, ma'am. You need to leave. I know they are back there. I just want a DVD. They're right over there. Points to the empty shelves again and starts to walk in that direction. Craig puts his arm out to block her path. Me, how'd you even get in here, ma'am? There's a construction site out front. There are times when I have perfect timing, as this is the same moment when Fred comes strolling by and waves at us, stops, and then looks at the old lady. I should mention, Fred is about average height, but built with thick cable-like arms. Not bulging muscles, but looks like he could carry 250 pounds of anything without worry and could intimidate just about anyone if he needed to. Fred to Craig, is she with you? Craig, no, she just walked in from the street. Old lady, I just want a DVD. I know right where they are. I've been here before. Craig, not in a while you haven't. This branch has been closed for 3 months. Fred, in a stern voice, ma'am, how'd you get in here? This is an active construction site. You had to pass by at least 2 or 3 of our roped and taped off areas that boldly say, do not cross. Did you just waltz past all of them? You can't be here. I just want a DVD, and I know they're here. Fred, first off, this building is closed and under construction. Second, no, they don't have any DVDs here. They're all out today. Please follow me, ma'am. She looks like she wants to say more, but Fred puts out his hand towards the door and starts to walk her out. He then grabs a nearby hard hat and puts it on her. Don't put that on me. I just had my hair done. Fred puts it on her anyway and walks her out to the street. They walked off the site the way that she had come in. They passed by the barriers that looked partially taken down or just knocked over. Fred's face went from stern to sour in about half a second when he saw them. By the time they walked out the building doors, I couldn't hear the conversation Fred and her were having, but the large windows on that side of the building gave me a prime view of the entire chain of events. The lady and Fred started having a long and argumentative conversation just outside the chain fence. They were apparently loud enough that the cops from the precinct across the street came over to see what was the matter. She was yelling and pointing at Fred, the building, and then at the cops. Fred looked like he was explaining the situation, pointing to the construction and the multiple "do not cross" tape and signs that she had taken down on her trek in. 5 minutes later, old lady is being walked over to the precinct when she turns around about halfway there and gives Fred the finger. The cop lightly puts his hand on her back and gently but firmly turns her back around and into the precinct. About 30 minutes later, we were sent home. A month later, I saw Craig at another location. He said he found out that old lady was arrested for trespassing and was banned from any library branch for a year. I've said this many times during my tenure as one of their consultants. How do you come to the library and not read the closed signs? They still haven't figured it out. I worked in bars and restaurants for years. During that time, I developed too many pet peeves to count and left the industry with a huge chip on my shoulder and enough trauma that I still have server nightmares years later. I miss liking humans. This is the story of how I served a table very, very badly because they were stupid and jerks, and because I didn't work there. Despite no longer working as a server, I guess I still look like one. I went through a phase where I only owned 1 pair of black Converse, 2 pair of black jeans, and 7 black t-shirts. I called it my Batman wardrobe. It made getting dressed in the morning very easy, but it made walking through a restaurant very difficult. With this outfit in mind, I will absolutely concede that in some restaurant settings, I might have been bringing this on myself. But as common as this outfit is among server staff, it certainly isn't what most servers and most restaurants wear. It's also a very normal outfit to see on the street. Most of the time, if I'm just trying to walk to the bathroom and someone at a table tries to order from me, I'll just quickly let them know I don't work there. But one time, I'm tempted to try and justify this by outlining for you the laundry list of crappy behaviors I had already witnessed from this table. In the interest of saving time, I'll just assure you that this table of 6 absolutely knew who their server was and had absolutely been treating her poorly. They were one of those groups where the first guy orders his beer, and by the time the other 5 finally tell the server their orders, the first guy is already complaining that his beer is taking too long, when the server hasn't even left the table side. Yeah, that actually happens a lot. While returning to my table from the bathroom, one of these winners stops me with a, "Hey, get me a crappy beer, because I'm an amateur with bad taste." I give him a cheerful, "Sure," and proceed toward my table. Quickly, his repulsive girlfriend pipes up with a whiny, "And I want another one of this," gesturing towards some pink sludge in a cup, because of course that's her taste in beverages. I decide to stick around and let the whole table place orders with me before returning to my table and waiting for them to notice me sitting there with my friends. I really didn't think this would go on long. I'm seated in plain sight about 2 tables away. They don't notice. Their server is tableside again within moments, and their round is promptly ordered again, since they're definitely the type to double order items from different staff, so my prank goes unnoticed. Later, I go to visit the bartender, have a brief chat, and grab a couple drinks. I'm walking back to my table with 2 beers in hand. "Is that mine?" a voice asks as he reaches to snatch it. "Nope," I reply and carry on. My actions had the potential to make life harder for the staff, and I'd feel bad about it if I wasn't friends with all of them and if they hadn't been in on it. This table is so badly behaved and have been determined to have a bad time since before they arrived. They're really a lost cause. Any attempt to clear things up for them wouldn't be worth missing out on the entertainment of messing with them. So I start looking for excuses to innocently walk past their table. I take a few more bathroom visits than I really need and go visit my friend at the bar a couple more times. I never initiate contact with these clowns, but if they take the bait, I'll take the order. They're becoming increasingly agitated with each encounter. They tell me how bad I am at my job, and I just cheerfully correct them. No, I'm actually really good at my job. They are more infuriated at how unfazed I am at what they're saying to me and the several drink orders I've failed to bring them. Remember, my friends and I have been seated in plain sight a few feet away drinking and laughing it up all night. Anyhow, they drink 3 rounds despite having ordered about 9 and decide to leave. Naturally, when their bill arrives, they try to contest it, arguing that, "We didn't actually get most of the drinks we ordered, so they shouldn't be on the bill." The manager informs them that the bill represents only the drinks they did receive. They try to argue the point, and I just can't stand to watch my prank escalate too far, so I pipe up. "Your bill represents the drinks you ordered from your server." I don't even have to say it that loudly since I am seated so close to them. They all turn to look at me, and I want to say they realize what's going on, but that's giving them too much credit, since one of them immediately lays in with the threats to call my boss. I offer them my boss's phone number and dare him to try and get a jeweler to fire their assistant for being bad at table service. He then tries to accuse me of putting items on his bill that shouldn't be there. You know, with the access card I use to log into the POS at the restaurant where I am a customer. He still hasn't figured it out. Edit. Don't worry, these people wouldn't have tipped well anyway, and my table more than made up for it. Speaking of restaurants, what's your favorite restaurant to go to of all time? Please let us know. I could really go for some Chili's right now. Do they still have that 2 for $20 deal? Karen decides that she can just pick my plants out of my garden. A while back in March, I made a post about how some entitled parents let their kids play in my cactus garden. I thought that would be my only garden-related incident, but lo and behold, apparently people think our fenced-in garden is land they can just do whatever they want on. Our block has many houses on it, and they all have iron black fences that are around 5 to 6 feet high with gates. Behind each fence, most people have some plants or a little garden or a tree. You get the idea. It's clear that these belong to each of the respective houses, as most people will also put their garbage cans or other stuff out there as well. In front of my family's house, we have a small cactus garden, and then we have some tall planters with some succulents in them, and then we have a little vegetable garden with some tomatoes, basil, etc. My grandmother is really into plants, and it gives her something to do. The 2 tall plants with the succulents are closest to the fence, so someone could stick their hand in and take plants out if they wanted to. I'm walking home and I see a woman sticking her hand through the fence. I think she's taking our tomatoes, so I speed walk up to her and ask what she's doing. Me. Hi, this is my garden. What are you doing? I'd appreciate it if you didn't take things out of my garden. Lady. Oh, hi. You have a lovely garden. I'm not damaging anything. I'm just taking some of these hen and chicks. It's a succulent. And then some of these plants. I look, and while she did take some succulents, she also just picked weeds out of our garden. Me. I'd appreciate it if you gave those succulents back. They're our plants, but you realize you just took weeds out too, right? Lady. Oh, I took some pictures of these for my photography class, and everyone loved the pictures, so I thought I'd take some. Me. I guess you can have the weeds, but I'd like my other plants back. Okay, goodbye. She just kinda got flustered and left after that. I did get my succulents back then. She was more embarrassed about taking weeds than stealing plants out of my garden. And this whole photography class thing was really weird to me. But whatever, she can keep the random weeds. Weirdest experience ever, and I'll never get how people think they can just stick their hands into someone else's garden and take their stuff. Edit. After reading through all your comments, man, I had no idea there were this many plant thieves or plant damagers. Sorry to everyone that's had this happen to them as well. Am I the jerk for not letting a woman sit next to me because she had her baby with her? I'm 25, male. Not usually for these kinds of trips, especially right now, but it was a family emergency. I purchased a bus ticket and took a 6-hour ride to the city my mom lives in for a few days, and I needed to get back home for work. I purchased a bus ticket again, but going back home. This time around, I decided to also purchase the seat next to me because I didn't want any strangers sitting so close to me for obvious reasons. Also because I wanted to have extra room to put my backpack and do some homework on my laptop. Today, I had to turn in an assignment before deadline, and I decided I'd work on it during the bus trip and submit it before I got home. When everyone else was getting on, this lady came up to me and asked if I could move my stuff. I thought maybe she mixed up her seat number and told her I purchased both these seats for myself, and she goes, I know, but my husband is sitting right here, and we'd like to sit together if you don't mind. Her husband was right across from me, so they would only be a few inches apart since I'm sitting by the window and she'd be in the aisle seat. I saw her holding a baby, no less than a year old, I'm guessing, and my brain automatically went, nope. I was not about to deal with a screaming baby glued right next to me the whole 6 hours back home. I told her I'm sorry, but I need the space to do some work, and I already purchased this seat. She kept asking me because their seats were all the way at the front and she won't be close to her husband. Again, I repeated my reasons and she got mad and brought the driver in on this. He politely asked if I would consider allowing her to sit there, and again, I said no. Well, he looked at her like there's nothing else he can do, so she walked away all upset. An hour later, all you hear is her baby screaming his head off, nowhere near me, which I was grateful for. But her husband still kept throwing me dirty looks the whole ride, which I tried to ignore by focusing on my work. A few times, she walked to the back to go to the bathroom and she'd glare at me. When we got off again, they were giving me dirty looks, and she asked me was it really all necessary to be a jerk over a seat when she needed her husband's help with the baby. I told her I was sorry, but yes, it was necessary. I'm home already, but I still keep thinking about it. Was I the jerk for not letting her sit there? Well, what do you think? Was OP a jerk for this or not? Please let us know. No, but her and her husband most definitely are. Sorry, I have to speak with the account holder. Another post on here reminded me of this story that actually happened to my sister. We'll call her Amanda. A few years ago, there was a big sporting event my family all wanted to get together and watch. We decided to all get together at my sister's house to watch it. She needed to upgrade her TV package to include more sports channels, which she was able to do online. Great! We had a great day, watched the big event, and ate and drank far too much. The issue started when my sister went to cancel the subscription, so as to not keep paying the higher rate for future months. Apparently, while you can upgrade your package and give the company more money online, removing the package was much more difficult, of course. They said the only way to cancel the package was over the phone. My sister is deaf. So, needless to say, this was an issue. My sister had been emailing and complaining to no avail. At the time this happened, my brother was temporarily staying with my sister, and he called the company for her. The exchange apparently went like this. I'm relaying what my sister and brother told me. Brother: Hi, I need to cancel the subscription to Extra Sports for Amanda's second name. Lady: I will need to speak with Amanda. Brother: My sister is deaf. She can't speak with you over the phone. Lady, there's nothing I can do. I have to speak with the account holder if you want to cancel your subscription. Brother, you need to speak with a deaf person on the phone? Yes. And you don't see anything wrong with your current system? All changes have to be done by the account holder. Brother, yes, exactly. And the only reason this was set up was because she was able to make changes online. You're saying she can't reverse the changes? All I can tell you is I have to speak with Amanda. At this point, my brother was telling my sister what was being said, and they come up with the perfect solution. Brother, okay, 1 second. This is Amanda. My brother continued speaking, and it's worth noting he has quite a deep, husky voice. The lady doesn't say anything. Brother, I need to cancel my sports subscription. I think you're the person I was just speaking to. No, I'm Amanda. You said you needed to speak with me. I thought you were deaf. And yet you insisted on speaking with me on the phone? So here I am. Please cancel my subscription. I have all the information you need to verify my identity. The subscription got canceled. Would I be the jerk if I reported my daughter's teacher for not pronouncing her name correctly? My daughter's English teacher refuses to pronounce her name correctly. She has a Japanese name and we live in Japan. Her name is Kanae, pronounced Kanae. Recently, Kanae told me that her English teacher, an expat from America, at school calls her Kanae. She told me that she told the teacher, "My name is Kanae. It's 3 claps, syllables." But the English teacher told Kanae that she was incorrect, and that grammatically speaking, that she, her teacher, was correct. During my daughter's sports day, I confronted the teacher. I explained that my daughter would like to be called Kanae, but she laughed and said she was pronouncing it the way it's supposed to be, but will try her best to remember. Today, my daughter told me the teacher still calls her Kanae. My daughter is very shy, and it took a lot of effort for her to correct her teacher the first time. I'm considering going to the school in the morning, but is that an overreaction? For some clarity, I'm not Japanese. My wife is, so our kids are mixed race. Our kids are fluent in English and Japanese. Not like Kanye West, but ka plus nai like Bill Nye. Oh wow, I wrote this late at night and went to sleep. I didn't expect it to get this much attention. Thank you for all of the responses. I can't reply to them all. But this morning, we couldn't go. Son had an earache. But we are going there after school ends. We asked our daughter if she wanted us to tell. She said that she didn't care. We don't want the teacher fired. We just want our daughter respected in our classroom. Update. I'm not sure where else to place it. But my wife and I went to this school today around 3:45 p.m. By then, the English teacher in question had gone home. We told the principal everything that I've told you all, and he was extremely apologetic. He did say that maybe it was a language barrier. But I reminded him that my daughter and I both told the teacher in English how to pronounce Kanae. So then the principal called her dispatch company, Interac it turns out. The same thing happened. The company apologized but tried to pass it off as a language barrier thing. More apologies were issued when we told them we spoke English. We were told that Interac would speak to the teacher and that they would handle it. The principal asked us to come to the school Monday morning. I'm hoping to talk to the teacher face to face on that day. You shut down my credit card. I work at a clothing store in a mall. Entitled customers don't frequent us, but unfortunately, that doesn't mean they never come. I had the displeasure of dealing with this wonderful lady a while back during the holidays. I do want to note, we do not have a store credit card. We've got the crazy lady. We've got our first manager and our second manager. I was in the front of the store when this lady walks in. Remember the cool mom from Mean Girls? That should give you an image of what she looked like, except she was on her phone. I welcome her in, and she just stares daggers at me, then storms off to my coworker. I need to speak to a big manager, like a general manager or district manager, someone in charge. Manager 1. Our general manager is on break, but I'm an assistant manager. What can I help you with? Lady. Now you hesitated, which leads me to believe you're not a manager. No, I need your real manager. Manager 2 walks over. Yes, ma'am. Is there anything I can do for you? You shut down my credit card. Manager 2. I'm sorry. I'm not sure how we could have done that. Do you know what a fraudulent transaction is? Because when I inserted my card into your point-of-sale terminal, your point-of-sale machine read it as a fraudulent transaction and caused my credit card to be canceled. Manager 2. I don't think that I know what a fraudulent transaction is. I have a degree in technology. Do you have a degree in technology? I didn't think so. That's probably why you work in retail. Manager. Can you settle down, please? I will not settle down. You shut down my credit card. While she yells at my manager, she's also on the phone with her bank. Her bank asks her to validate her information, which the lady replies with, I will not give you any of my information. That is mine and mine only, not yours. I get moved to the back of the store and miss the rest of Crazy Lady's tirade. Another customer told me that she claimed we embarrassed her in front of everyone in the store and that she exclaimed that she would be filing a formal complaint with corporate. I did hear her shout, I won't be here ever again, as she left, but she did come back when we allegedly sold her the wrong size. My entitled mom thinks she should live for free. Background. 3 years ago, I, 24 female, decided to move my mom, who's 61, in with me when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had multiple surgeries coming up and was not physically capable of taking care of herself. She is cancer-free now, but is not in great health. She can't work and draws disability. The first year to year and a half wasn't bad, but the last year and a half to 2 years has been a nightmare. She constantly trashes the house, leaves food laying around for days, destroys things such as my washer and dryer, has sketchy characters coming in and out that are on drugs, yells and cusses at me, tells me I'm a bad person. I could keep going forever. A few weeks ago, I told her I was done and she needed to move out. She pays me $300 out of her check, which takes care of her rent, cell phone, house insurance, electric, cable, water, and some food. I told her starting in October, I was going to start taking the $300 and put it in a savings account until there was enough money for her to move. When she got paid in October, she gave me the money. Today she calls me at work and demands her $300, stating it is her money to do as she pleases with. I asked why she needed the money so bad, and she says it's because she wants to go on vacation to Miami. I explained to her that the $300 she gave me is rent money, as in a bill, that I just happen to be saving it rather than using it. She goes on to tell me that I'm stealing from her, that it's her money and I have to give it back to her. When I continued to say no, she said starting next month, she is going to save the money herself. Me, knowing that she will just blow the money rather than saving it, I tell her that either she gives me the $300 a month to put in savings, or she has to move out by the end of the month since she would no longer be paying rent at that point. At this point, she starts telling me I'm a bad person and a horrible kid, that no other kid would treat their mother the way I treat her, that since she is my mother, she deserves to live with me for free and shouldn't have to pay for anything, that the money she gets should strictly only be for her and what she wants, that she would save money to move when she is ready to. I had to contact my landlord and explain the situation. When she gets her next check, if she doesn't pay me, my landlord and I will be getting her evicted. It just dumbfounds me that she thinks that her 24-year-old daughter, who works full-time and goes to school full-time, should supply her with a place to live and accessories for free. I make good money for my age, but she acts like I'm a money tree. What would you do in this situation? Would you let Karen keep living with you or not? Please let us know. Reminds me of the time you tried to kick me out, Mr. Reddit. Burglar calls the cops on the homeowner. This story was actually told to me by a friend of mine and is a quick tale about how she turned the tables on a home invader. At the time this happened, my friend was raising her kid by herself in the suburbs of Texas. The area they lived in wasn't particularly safe, with wild beasts of both human and animal kinds, so friend armed herself and took some safety classes to protect her small family. The years go by. Her kid is now 5, and there was a series of break-ins in the neighborhood, so friend hired a security company to install security cameras around her home. One day, while reviewing footage, friend noticed a strange man lurking around the house. He seemed to wander around a bit, and then wandered away, so friend shrugged and carried on with her day. Nothing to worry about, right? Turns out, she was wrong. A few days later, friend was working in her home office and saw the same guy walking down her driveway, opened the gate, and entered her backyard. Friend realized the kitchen door was open. Her kid was playing in the living room. Friend grabbed her weapon from her purse and ran to the kitchen and got there as the guy calmly walked through her back door. Guy sauntered in, looked around the room to see friend standing there with her weapon. Guy froze. Friend, who the heck are you and why are you in my house? The guy gulped, grabbed his phone and dialed 911. Help! I'm standing in this kitchen and some crazy lady has a gun pointed at me. Friend was stunned but didn't put her weapon down while calmly telling her kid to go play in the other room, and they stood there, not moving, while staring the guy down, who refused to leave. Guy, you're gonna get it when the cops show up, jerk. Friend, you're in my house. Now get out. Guy actually stayed standing there until the police came into the kitchen. Guy saw the cops and started screaming, "Arrest her! She's crazy! Look, she has a gun on me!" Friend put it down and started shaking. "This is my house! You broke in!" Cops stopped and stared, looked at the guy. "You broke in?" Guy, "Well, her door was open, and then she pulled that on me. That's not how it works. Arrest her for having that." Friend, "I have a license and this is Texas, you idiot." Cops arrested the guy, who was still howling how Friend didn't do it right. Apparently, she wasn't a proper victim. Friend gave the cops a copy of the video of him sniffing around earlier in the week. She never heard anything back from them, so she figured he went to jail. Am I the jerk for setting up my ex-husband to look like a bad father? When my and my ex's daughter, Megan, was turning 13, she wanted a tiered Harry Potter cake. She loves the movies. She was very specific in what she wanted. I told her as gently as I could that I didn't think we'd be able to afford that. And my ex took what opportunity to be the fun parent and said in a doting voice, "Oh baby, don't worry. Daddy will get you your cake." She was all smiles and ran off to get her bags. I told him if he was going to promise this to order it early, because bakeries require advance order. He got all huffy and said he knew what the heck he was doing and I should mind my own business. I said anything involving our daughter is my business. He said he didn't need my help and I should just handle the birthday party and he'd get the cake. I said okay, then they left for the weekend. I know my ex. He puts things off that aren't about him. I knew he was going to forget about the order. Usually I'd pester him so he wouldn't forget, but he said he didn't need my help, so I decided not to bring it up unless he did. But I did call a friend I have who started decorating cakes to order the cake from her. It cost a bit more than I'd have liked, but not as much as I had been worried it would. Well, he never brought the cake up again. At least not until the day before her birthday, where he called me, frantic. He forgot to order the cake. And now none of the bakeries will take his order without tacking on a massive fee, because there's no way they can have the cake ready unless they focus their full staff on one cake. I was going to tell him not to worry. I ordered the cake for him. But then he says, "Why didn't you remind me?" I just snapped and said he needed to figure this out and he better have a cake tomorrow. Then I hung up. He brought a cake. A plain white sheet cake with red trim and one of those print-out sugar decals on the front of Harry Potter and his two friends, and a wax 11 candle. She was turning 13. He revealed the cake during her party, so everyone was sitting quiet and Megan looked heartbroken and tried to be nice, but she asked what happened to the cake she wanted. X floundered, and I let him for a few seconds before laughing. "Haha, just kidding." And then I went and pulled the cake I ordered from the kitchen. Megan lit up and everyone laughed and it was just one huge joke and the rest of the party went great. But after everyone went home and Megan was in her room, X tried to lay into me about humiliating him and letting him look like a bad father. And I told him the only one who made him look bad was him. I think I was justified, but some mutual friends think I should have just told him I got the cake to keep things civil between us. Am I the jerk? Edit. I never told Megan or even planned to tell her, not until she was older maybe. But she started acting very chilly to X for a long while after her birthday party, and when he asked her why, she admitted to almost walking into the kitchen when he and I were whisper arguing the night of her birthday. She found out he had completely forgotten to order the cake, and the joke cake was actually the real cake he got her. So she was very cross with him for a long time afterwards. Edit 2. To everyone thinking I purposefully waited to have him reveal the joke cake before showing the cake I ordered, I didn't. I had planned on pulling him aside before the party and letting him know I just went ahead and ordered a cake for him. Then we'd take in the big cake and leave whatever he brought in the kitchen. But he showed up after all the guests had arrived, so I didn't have time to grab him before he set the sheet cake box on the dining room table where everyone saw it. And I knew everyone would notice us taking his short pink box into the kitchen and coming back out with a taller white one. I thought on my toes. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex? Please let us know. I can see why he's the ex. The guy sounds like a real piece of work. Do the work exactly how you want it done, even though it's ridiculously wrong? Fine by me. Some background before we start. I worked as a drone pilot / mine surveyor for a man-child, using drones to take pictures of the mines, creating a 3D model out of those pictures, and then calculating all sorts of goodies for the clients, like their gold yield and the amount of crap they have to move, etc. It's really technical and can easily go completely to crap if you don't know what you're doing, and even if you know what you're doing, it can still very easily go to complete crap. I'm licensed and certified. I've been playing the game for a long time now, and I know how it works most of the time. My ex-boss, on the other hand, didn't. See, he got his surveyor's license during the 80s by complete chance. He was a simple miner who just happened to be in the right place at the right time, getting a free university scholarship to become a surveyor because they had a few grants left over and called out who wanted it. His hand was one of the ones they picked. The second he got his license, he quit his job and convinced an old retiree surveyor to throw in his retirement, all cards on the table, to start up their own surveying business. He spent the entire time at the golf course and the bar, making a fat amount of cash out of his newly founded, self-milking cash cow. Not once did he carry out an actual survey. Heck, I doubt he's even stepped foot on a mine since then. He just invoiced the clients, told the retirees where to go, and collected a paycheck. So, time moves on, work slowly filters in, and as one does when they reach the ripe old age of 80-something, the retiree decides forget this and kicks the bucket. My boss's cash cow just died on him, and no matter how hard he squeezed, the only thing coming out of it now was dust. The only other employee was this other guy who acted as his assistant and basically just carried heavy things for him. He didn't have a backup. So, of course, he hired me. I was pretty fresh into the game at this point, starving and basically homeless, and in my eyes, this guardian angel just descended from the heavens and offered me a way out. He basically told me that we have to survey X site and get the data to X client. Didn't tell me how, didn't tell me what data exactly they want. Heck, he didn't even tell me when they needed it by. He just pointed to the place on Google, told me to get there and to get it done. Somehow, I did it. I scraped by and eventually figured out just what the heck to do. At some point, we were kicked off of the mine for reasons that my boss didn't disclose to me and had to open up our own offices. My boss graciously dug deep into his pockets, kicked out his eldest son, and dedicated that room in his house to our use. Now, I was spending every day with the man, since if he wasn't at the golf course, he was at home. We started butting heads. He had this illusion in his head of how things work and how you're supposed to do things, and I had practical experience and qualifications to tell me otherwise. Every single day was a fight, and every single day he'd tell me how he wanted it to be done, and I'd just turn around and do it the way it's meant to be done. I started passing out my CV everywhere. My timing was perfect though, because a little blip and crash of the 2020 job economy happened right as I started searching. The interviews I had lined up all got canceled. The people who I already interviewed with and who seemed ecstatic to have me suddenly didn't answer my calls. I felt like a scorned lover, waiting on the curb in the rain and my socks soaking wet. I was considering maybe going back to IT. I felt hopeless and dejected, doomed to a life of taking care of a disgusting man-child and his fat wallet. Eventually, though, a second angel descended from the heavens, once again saving me. Finally, I could leave this place. I was waiting on the contract, not really willing to commit to anything without it being in writing, when my boss and I got into another massive screaming fight. After hour 3, something inside me snapped. You want it done your way? Fine, I'll do it your way. I committed hard to following his procedures every step of the way. Surveys were taking 3 times longer to do. The drone crashed 4 times, my first ever crash, and all of them were near write-offs. The 3D models stopped looking like mines and started resembling potato chips and Twizzlers. He had clients calling him day and night, non-stop, asking him just what the heck was he doing. Eventually, he gave my number to them so they could call me directly, and I started getting calls day and night, non-stop, until I just turned off my phone outside of office hours. Clients were threatening to drop the contracts. Clients were threatening to sue. My contract came in from my new company, and I signed the dotted line with a smile on my face. One client stopped calling and stopped paying. Word got out, as it always does, that his company is not legit and is just being run out of someone's home. Another client canceled the contract completely and threatened legal action. I handed in my resignation. My boss looked at me pleadingly, offering me a ton of cash to stay. I told him no. He begged me to write him a manual on how to do the work, to show him how to process the data, to fly the pits, to set up the instruments. I spent the last 2 weeks there writing out every procedure he ever told me I needed to follow, sent it through to him, and walked away. A few weeks later, when he was scheduled to do a survey, I was suddenly spammed with calls and emails and messages from him, asking how to do this or how to fly that or where to find this data. His manual wasn't working. Surprise, surprise. I don't know. Just read the manual. My new company is currently picking up all the contracts he's dropped. If we manage to get the last one, I'm going to ask them for a bonus. Karen, did you just assault me? This story just happened about 3 days ago with me, my godson, newborn, and my so close best friend we could be sisters. Let's set the scene. Paris, Target, kinda chilly outside, and somehow it's a bit cloudy, so I thought we were gonna get cold rain. During the time my BFF came to visit, I was in the midst of getting my godbaby together to take him home. His poor mom had to work that whole weekend, so I told my BFF to come with me. On the way, my godbaby's mom asked if we could pick up some things for them from Target. Sure, why not? We see Target before we get to her house anyway, plus I needed to get some stuff afterwards, so why not get it all while we're there, right? Plus, one of my favorite cousins works there, so I could see her and finally let her see my godbaby from a distance. Might want to remember this for later on. So my friend cash apped me and we go off to Target. So we get in Target and I have my godbaby in his little carrier. Unfortunately, my friend brought the one that's too big for the front of the shopping cart, so I had to put it directly inside of the cart. Since CJ is only 1 month, he's too young for a mask, so I cover the carrier in a thick enough blanket. I asked my BFF to get another cart for the shopping, and now we're set. Now, to describe what we're wearing, everyone knows Target's uniform is a basic red shirt with nothing on it and khaki pants. BFF wore a navy blue top with black flare pants and flats. I wore a V-neck burgundy top with flare sleeves and strings to tie in a bow in the front with black flare jeans with some sneakers. So we're shopping, checking off things on her list and mine. Then I'm looking over on the list and on the side of the walking area so I wouldn't be in anyone's way and feeding CJ at the same time through the blanket. My little nugget got fussy, and I noticed I forgot something for him a few aisles back. So I asked my BFF to put on a glove and hold his bottle and finish feeding him while I go get the item. I go to the aisle, looking hard because my glasses tend to slide and fall off a lot. Keep this in mind too. And then I hear that classic sound that irritates everyone so bad, it makes them want to bang their head on the floor. That classic Karen, ahem. I turn my head and there she is. Pixie haircut, sunglasses on top of her head with no sun in sight, tight tank top, short shorts, knowing darn well it's chilly outside, and flip-flops. I'm thinking to myself, is this the Karen uniform or something? But I digress. So I move out of the way, thinking I'm in her way, and continue looking for my item, and she sighs, and I can feel her staring burn through my skin, but I wasn't letting up. Then she says, "It's hard finding good help these days. Everyone wants to be lazy." I roll my eyes and put my head down, saying, "Not today. Please, just not today." I find my item and leave out the aisle. Now she's mad. Did I care? Nope. And I think she could sense that. Then she starts. Y'all know how this goes. Karen. "So, you're not going to help me?" Me. "Nope." Karen. Fake gasp. "And why not?" Me. "Okay, I'ma try to say this in a nice way because I see you're one of those. Ma'am, I don't work here. I give you no indication that I work here. No, I'm not on break, and no, it's not my day off. I generally do not work here. Now I'm going to leave and put this in my shopping cart so I can pay and leave the store." Karen stops me as I'm backing up. "Don't you dare walk away from me. I know you're lying. I've seen you here before working. You can't fool me. You just don't want to work. You will be fired when I'm done with you. I'm getting the manager." Me looks her up and down. "Yeah, you do that." I go back to the carts and my BFF asks me what was taking so long. I tell her everything from A to Z and she chuckles. I see she's trying to burp CJ, so I tell her to let me try. I place the towelette on my shoulder and give him a good try. I'm 2 minutes in and he burps, and when I lay him down, baby boy is asleep. Good shot, so now we can leave. But then I hear screaming and screeching. My eyes widen and my head slowly turns to the right when I see Karen coming down the wall area with a manager. BFF says, "Is that her?" Yes, that's her. So Karen gets to us, still screaming and screeching. Karen, "This is her. She should be fired for not helping a customer and lying about not working here. I'm a loyal customer. I have rights." Me, "Sir, can you please tell her to keep it down? I just put my son to sleep. Second, I've already told the Wicked Witch of the Northeast that I don't work here. What part of my clothes say I work here? And even if I did and was on my day off, customers are not entitled to get help from them if they are not working. But as I have told her, I don't work here." Manager, Ma'am, she really does not work here. All of this could have been avoided. Do you want me to help you? Karen.
Yes, I want you to fire her. I know you're covering for her. I've seen her plenty of times working. If something doesn't happen right now, I'm calling corporate.
Then from all of that hollering, my godbaby starts crying. So I pick him up and I'm trying to calm him down. Now I'm mad. I don't like when people disturb my son. So I snapped. Me. Lady, I told you to keep the noise down because I just put my son to sleep. Now look, I got a hollering Oswald and a crying baby. Shut up and move on somewhere. Like, wow, how hard is it for you to comprehend that I don't work here? You're that embarrassed at the fact that you were wrong that you gotta keep up this image just so you can try to be right? Get away from us so I can calm my son down. I guess all of that set her off, and she paid absolutely no attention to the fact that I still had my godbaby in my arms because she lunged at me with her arm in the air. And when it came down, it looked like she got me because I moved my face quick enough for her not to. By that time, my glasses slid off and fell on the floor and broke. Yup, now I'm really upset. Those were the only glasses I had too, and I had just tried to make an eye doctor appointment this week prior. They're full this month and next month and don't have appointments to book yet. I'm beyond upset. Then the ultimate happened. My cousin. So my cousin comes around the corner being nosy as heck, and when she noticed it was me, now she wants to know what's going on. The manager wants to know what this had to do with her, and she said she was my big cousin. Both he and Karen looked at us and saw we looked so much alike, it was no wonder Karen had mixed us up. We are two sister kids. My mama is the third oldest daughter, and her mama is the baby. So the manager tells my cousin to calm me down because he sees I'm about ready to fight while he goes to call the police. He didn't ask me if I wanted the police called, he just said he was gonna call the police. Oh, that set Karen all the way off. She's kicking and screaming while he's pulling her to his office. My cousin calms me down while I'm gently bouncing to put my godbaby back to sleep. The police came, I gave them my statement, my BFF gave her statement, cousin gave her statement because even though she didn't see it, she heard it, and she's a family member. Manager paid for the baby stuff, and the police said they'll get back in touch with me over Karen after he put her in handcuffs and put her in the back of a police car. Now, letting everyone know, yes, we did have our masks on and only took them off to talk to the manager. During the time I was burping my godbaby, I had the blanket over him. I still don't trust germs. I told my mom everything and she was laughing. I'm just surprised my BFF didn't say anything this whole time because knowing her, she would have jumped in. Sorry for the long story. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law it's weird that she thinks she gets a say on things relating to my daughter? My mother-in-law is mostly a person who's easy to get along with, but for some reason, the lady has snapped after we announced that I'm pregnant. We let her get out all of her excitement, but didn't really encourage it. She keeps doing this weird thing where she refers to the baby as her baby. If I can be honest, I'm sure it'll change as time goes on, but I find the whole thing rather boring. Congrats! Someone who I just so happen to be married to got me pregnant. It's really not that exciting or interesting, and I cannot relate to women who never shut up about it. It's like the only thing anyone wants to talk to me about. Anyway, mother-in-law was over a few weeks ago and started talking names. She told me to give her a list and she'd go through and let us know which ones she liked or didn't like. I asked her why that was necessary, and she said, "Oh, you know, just making sure we're on the same page." I asked for clarification to that, why we'd need to be on the same page, and she started getting a bit cagey about it. "Oh, you know, just one of those things. Gotta make sure everyone's on board with the name." At that point, I cleared my throat and said, very kindly but firmly, "There's no reason for anyone else to be on board with the names we've chosen." She got a bit upset at that and said, "Well, it's my grandchild, my baby." I said, "No, she's not your baby. Grandchild, yes, but you don't think you get a say in anything involving her, do you? Like, you don't think you get any say in her name, how she's raised, what school she goes to, how she dresses, any of it, right? You know you're not the parent here, right?" Well, she blew up, calling me ungrateful. For what? You aren't doing anything. Snobby, snooty, the whole shebang. I just got up and said I was bored with the conversation and went to the backyard to go read in the sun while she melted down to my husband about how I'm stealing all the joy from her and that don't I get that grandma is the most important role she'll ever play? My husband told her to knock off the theatrics and go home, and now she's going all over social media playing up what a victim she is because I guess now we're keeping her baby away, which isn't true. They haven't even been born yet. I've had so many pushbacks from my family telling us we need to just get over it and learn to accept that grandma is going to be around and that, yeah, maybe she should get a say in some things. After all, it's her grandchild. I'm at a loss here. Maybe this is some weird cultural thing. We're in the Southwest US. Everyone is some bland mix of white. No religious stuff other than the usual fake Catholic stuff. Am I the jerk? Edit. Well, this was certainly a post. I'm glad I'm generally not the jerk. The claims that I'm trying to be edgy and not like the other girls are honestly depressing. I didn't expect people to get so upset because a woman would dare not think having a baby is the most OMG sacred, beautiful, lovely thing or whatever. I hope those of you who think that it's a not like the other girls thing can maybe get out there and explore what different women are actually like, and not just the ones in your immediate lives. Women come in all shapes and sizes, attitudes and personalities. Being one way is not a condemnation of how other women are. Being bored by childbirth and all of that isn't a condemnation for those who think it's a big deal or a miracle. Calling me edgy or a tryhard is such a very Reddit thing to say about a woman who doesn't behave the way you think she should. Best of luck to everyone, and thanks for the kind words. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know.
I think Grandma's overstepping her boundaries, but it's just because she's so excited.
I do work here, but not for you. I work in IT contracting and specialize in quality control and software testing, and this happened about 10 years ago. I was hired by a company, client, as a member of their governance team. Basically, we were to assess the company they hired, Big Tech, to create their software and their testing standards and plans. Governance teams are hard to utilize correctly and only any good if the person you report to understands. Client was my customer and Alan was my boss from the company. So they decided to change our role to working directly with Big Tech on their test teams to watch what they were doing and bringing up any issues to Alan. I am packing up to leave one day and Big Tech project manager appears out of nowhere and asks to have a meeting. Never spoke to the guy before, but I knew who he was. A bit surprised, I asked if it could wait till tomorrow as the day was over, and he said that it's one of the things I need to discuss. A bit miffed, I agree. So we're going into a meeting room with windows where you can still see the office floor. He asks me to look out on the office and tell him what I see. No idea what he wanted me to say. I was a bit dumbfounded, so I said, "People working." He nods his head, repeating it, and then asks why I am not with them and was going home, and why I was not dressed appropriately for a client's site and so unprofessional. Now I see the issue. He obviously thinks I work for him and not the client directly. I explain that I've done my work for the day and ask if he expects me to stay in the office doing nothing. He goes into a long-winded explanation of how the longer we are in the office, the more they have to pay. Intrigued, I ask, does that mean I would get paid more? Or is it that I should do unpaid overtime so Big Tech makes more money? He explained I was a salaried employee and should be grateful for the experience I was getting with their world-class company. I ask again that if I have no more work, should I stay to charge the client more? And what should I do while I have nothing to do? He's getting a little frustrated with me and his tone is getting more aggressive, and he said I should just look busy while I stay late. That is when I said, "You aren't my boss. I work for client and Alan is my boss, not you." Alan was the person he reported progress and billing to. I was hired to make sure Big Tech was accurately creating the software and not overcharging the client. You have just outlined how you are overcharging and tried to reprimand me for not taking part. You accused me of being unprofessional and not dressing professionally. My belief is that you are acting unprofessionally, and it doesn't matter what you look like, and your insistence of the appearance of being busy to hide inaction illustrates this. You also appear to be taking advantage of your employees, and importantly, you do not know who does and doesn't work for you. He freaked out completely and started asking if we could keep this among ourselves, and that if I badmouthed the company, I would affect my chances of getting work in the future as they are so big. Explained it would not be very professional of me and that I would be accurately reporting on what was said. I asked if there was anything more he wanted to discuss as he had called this meeting, and I normally charge for overtime because I don't like being taken advantage of. Then I left the room laughing, telling him he may have some things to explain tomorrow. When I arrived the next day, he wasn't in his office, which was very unusual as he was there first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. I open up the calendar and look up Big Tech meetings and see PM has canceled all of his meetings for the day. I ring my boss and ask if he knows why PM is not in today and we should have a meeting. He's up for the meeting, but said PM has had some family emergency and the new person was going to the PM in a few days. We have our meeting and I explained what happened. He was furious. He wanted the names of the people who were staying late and just surfing the net. Now I worked side by side with these people and knew they didn't have any choice. Explained that they weren't the issue, but being forced to stay by big tech made them stay, and that they were actually good at the work, and realistically, replacing them would stall the project. So he decided to get the timesheets and billing together. Suddenly, all the billing reports were password protected and they couldn't get in touch with PM due to the family emergency. A lot of reports gone missing from the sharp point with all of the PM's name showing very late hours. He asked me to try and find the information while he contacted Big Tech to explain what's going on. As I'm looking through SharePoint, I noticed that PM is still logged in and actively deleting files. So I contact the security section to kick him out of the system and get backups of SharePoint. Go to my boss's office and he's on the phone with Big Tech, and he puts it on speakerphone and tells them I'm on the call. He explains that Big Tech can't contact PM due to the family issue. So I point out he was just on our network deleting files 20 minutes ago. Silence is deafening from the other end. Tell them the files deleted and password protected now are all being restored and we would have them in a couple of hours. More silence. My boss then says, are they concerned about the content of these files? And why is PM logging onto their servers deleting files? More silence. I could go into the whole thing, but basically piles of documentation proving overcharging. The PM had been too stupid to understand the client's SharePoint was not his Big Tech SharePoint, because they have the same name. He was not having a family emergency, shocker, right? And they were hiding him and letting him resign with a package. Now everyone knew what happened, and you would think the staff of Big Tech would hate me. But the opposite happened. They were told not to do any more overtime without 3 signatures for approval from the client. It effectively stopped all overtime and made them all very happy. I've met many of them, since on other projects they still thank me for getting PM out of the way. He did get other jobs, but was let go several times because of all of his talk of being able to get projects over the deadline. He had no ability and would just tell people to work longer hours. That is not sustainable and doesn't address problems with specification and design issues. My grandma called the cops on me for refusing to cut the neighbor's yard. My cousin was reminding me of this story and finds it hilarious. I was repressing it so well for 7 years. A little background is, I lived with my grandmother shortly after I graduated college and my mom passed. My grandmother has a tendency for treating anyone living with her like her personal help. She comes to me one morning while I'm on my laptop asking if I'll trim the neighbor's bush. This is so she can see down the street and it's currently blocking her view. I explain multiple times that it's on their property and she needs to talk to them about it. She tells me they won't mind and I ask to get them on the phone to confirm, but she doesn't want to disturb them. One could argue a loud power tool would also do that. We go back and forth for a good bit while she calls me lazy and entitled. After about 30 minutes, she threatens to call the cops, and I wish her the best of luck and go outside to clean my car and breathe, since I'm obviously not getting anything done inside. What got me nervous was she said something along the lines of,
I can tell the police anything, and they'll believe a little old lady over a young punk.
I planned on leaving, but didn't want to look like I was fleeing in case she actually did call them. About 15 minutes later, 2 cop cars show up and I just roll my eyes. 2 officers go immediately inside and one is standing outside talking to me. I calmly explain my side of the story. Apparently, she's inside giving them a tale claiming she's being mistreated by me. I asked the police to explain the accusations and was told she claims I'm mistreating her because I'm quiet and I keep to myself, and that I gave her a small bruise on the back of her arm above the elbow. The cop talking to me laughed it off, saying how that looks like she bumped into something, and this is the first time he's gotten a call for someone being too quiet. What's wrong with me? I think the cop who talked to me first could tell what I was dealing with and remarked how exhausted I looked. He told me they're writing it off and advised I stay somewhere else for a few days. He's dealt with calls like this before, explaining it's people who want to complain and others up in the crosshairs. Ends up, she hasn't even mentioned the bush. Her list of grievances hasn't gotten there yet. The other 2 cops had left, and the one who talked to me gave her a big lecture on how she's only allowed to trim things on her property, and some stories about serious altercations he's dealt with. I'm sure he was giving me ample time to pack, while also probably venting about this non-issue. I walk out with the officer, and she seems to think they're taking me to jail. I guess she thinks you get to take a duffel bag with you. He's making sure I have everything, including my car keys and a safe place to go. He also gives me his card in case I need any help in the future or just need to talk. As I leave, I hear her asking the officer if they'll let me out Monday, as she'll need me to run errands, and he's like, I don't know when he'll return, but you wanted him out, so we're working on that. He's smiling, but giving off a very, lady, that's your problem vibe. I stayed with my girlfriend for at least a week while getting voicemails each day from my grandmother asking if and when I'm coming home. Have you ever had a relative call the cops on you? If so, why? Please let us know.
I'm calling the cops on you if you don't hurry up and get to the next story.
Karen slapped me because I was ignoring her. I am an 18-year-old male, born completely deaf and mute. Also, I am partially blind in my left eye. I live with my sister, who's 28, who had been taking care of me since our parents have passed. Recently, she got married and went on her honeymoon, so I'm on my own for a few weeks. This happened yesterday. Usually, whenever I go out, I am accompanied by my sister due to my disability. But now, since she is on her honeymoon, I had to go out alone. There was a new supermarket opened in our area, and I needed some items, so decided to go there and grab them. My bad for wearing a red-colored shirt almost similar to the employees working there. But if you look closely, you could see that it was not the uniform. I was at the electronics section looking for some batteries when I see an old man struggling to get some DVDs on the top shelf. Since I'm tall, I helped him. He thanked me, I can do lip reading, and went on his way. Then I began looking for the batteries. That's when I felt someone grab my left wrist. I turned around and a woman in her late 40s slapped me. She was speaking something, but I couldn't follow her lips as she spoke too fast. However, I was able to catch some words like,
You, ignore, job,
etc. So I signed to her that I am deaf. Apparently, this was a wrong move because she became more irate towards the signs. Again, she was yelling something, but I couldn't catch anything. So I took my notebook and started writing that I am deaf and mute. Before I could finish, she grabbed my notebook and pen and threw them away. Then she slapped me again and pushed me to the ground. Luckily, by this time, a store employee came to see what the commotion was about. He saw me on the ground and helped me up. Then he asked me what happened. Before I can sign to him, Karen starts to yell at the employee. I don't know what she said as she was not facing me. After she finished, I signed to the employee that I cannot hear or speak. Fortunately, he understood and explained this to the lady, but she is still not convinced. She tries to give me again, but I moved away. Then I wrote and showed the employee to call the cops on her. The employee nodded and called the cops. Karen tried to run away, but the security caught her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They first talked to the employee who explained the situation about how Karen had assaulted me because she mistook me for a store employee. One police officer comes and speaks to me. I understood that he wanted my version of events, so I wrote everything down and showed it to the officer. Then they went to check the CCTV footage. Then they came back and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I gladly said yes. Karen was then placed in handcuffs and given a free ride in the back of a police cruiser. The manager then explained to me that Karen thought I worked there, and she became angry that I ignored her. She had been standing on my left side, so obviously I couldn't see her. The store manager then offered me a 50% discount on the products. I texted my sister about the events that happened, and she was livid. Oh, did I mention that my sister is a lawyer? She told me that she herself will be handling the case and would see that Karen would get maximum time. Court date is in around 40 days. I will update about it after court. Edit. I noticed many were asking about masks. She was indeed wearing one, but during that encounter, she had it on under her chin and was not covering the nose or her mouth. Also, lawyers in India can represent their family in court as long as they are not directly involved in it and the judge is not a relative to the lawyer. If this happened to you, would you press charges on Karen or not? Please let us know.
I dare you to press charges on me.
Am I the jerk for not giving my brother and his wife the bigger room? My brother's wife lost her job, which has caused them to lose the house they were renting. My brother asked if they could stay with me. I talked to my boyfriend and he said sure. So I told my brother yes, but he can't bring any of their furniture with them. We don't have any room for any of it. Our spare room has a bed and dressers in it already. He'll have to find a place to store their things. He wasn't happy about it, but said okay, and that was that. When they started moving their clothes and whatnot in, They started complaining about how small the room was. I ignored it because they were used to a rather large house, and I was sympathetic because I know how it feels to go from having everything to nothing. I apologized and told them that this was the best we had. Issue: my son was in his room and started crying. I went in there to check on him, and my brother got mad. I usually keep his door closed when he's napping. I have a baby monitor, and I guess my brother saw how large his room is. It's not big at all, by any means. It's just bigger than the spare room. He asked why the heck we gave him the small room when we can just move our son into the spare room. I told him I'm not moving my son and all of his things into a different room when the spare bedroom is perfectly fine for the two of them as long as they don't try to move their entire house into one room. He got mad, she got mad, and they threw a fit. Then my brother asked why we don't move my son into our room. I told them that my son's crib won't fit in our room, and again, I'm not moving him just to accommodate them. The last week or so has been very tense. Small comments here, cold shoulder there, petty shoulder checks from his wife if we cross close together. I've kept my mouth shut because I love my brother, and I don't want to cause trouble. Plus, if they weren't so petty, they wouldn't be that hard to live with. They've started to complain that my son's crying at night is keeping them awake, which I get, but he's a baby. He only wakes once a night to eat, and that's not even all the time. This morning it all came to a head when my brother told me I should move into the spare room and let them have mine and my boyfriend's room so that they don't get woken up by the baby. When I told him no, he started yelling, calling me selfish and entitled, told me that I should let them have my room because my son is an annoying little jerk that keeps them up every night, all night. Where I may be the jerk, I saw red. Let me start this by saying I did not yell at my brother as he yelled at me. I said, if you can't appreciate the room you were given, you can go elsewhere. My boyfriend and I have been more than accommodating to you. You constantly complain. You're ungrateful and rude. Get over yourself or get out of my house. ETA, I'm asking if I'm the jerk because my mother called and told me I'm the jerk for not giving the married couple the big bedroom with the connected bathroom. And apparently my other siblings agree. ETA 2, they do not pay rent. My boyfriend and I own our home and don't pay anything on it. They pay the difference on the electricity bill and buy some of their own groceries. I do the majority of the cooking and all the cleaning. ETA 3, boyfriend and I are going to talk about kicking them out tonight when he gets off work. ETA 4, I will update y'all tomorrow. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is their brother the jerk? Please let us know.
OP's the jerk for not kicking them out sooner.
Have the students build it. I am a technology education teacher who always went above and beyond for my school, students, and administrators. I spent countless hours designing and building things for the school, signs, murals, wall art, games, etc. I really didn't mind because I enjoy the design challenges that go along with these builds. That was until I received a pink slip. For those of you who are not aware, a pink slip basically means that I may be losing my job the following school year. This really upsets me because I had received great observations, become a role model for our students, and put in dozens of unpaid hours to create these side projects for the school. I had a meeting with my assistant superintendent who basically told me that she appreciated all of my hard work but didn't see much value in my program, and with budget cuts coming down the pike, I would most likely be losing my job. Now, it needs to be mentioned that tech ed is not like the traditional shop classes of the 70s where students would build birdhouses and ashtrays. My curriculum focused primarily on STEM with heavily involved hands-on applications. I related otherwise dry material to awesome projects that all the students enjoyed. Kids actually liked their schoolwork, and she knew it. It's also worth noting that both the valedictorian and salutatorian were going to Ivy League colleges to pursue STEM degrees. Needless to say, I was beyond livid. The week following the meeting, my principal asked me if I was interested in building some new games for the cafeteria that students could play when they finished eating. Easy table games like mini hockey, checkerboards, etc. to alleviate students from getting out of control. I explained that I could not complete the project and that was that. Until the assistant superintendent caught me in the hallway and told me, just have the students build it. So that is exactly what I did. I tasked my laziest and most unqualified students for a special project, the result of which was glorious. Checkerboards that didn't even have squares, hockey boards with splinters or uneven goals, laser engraved puzzles that did not fit together. I thanked the students and asked the assistant superintendent to come on down to my lab because the students' projects were done and they were excited to show them off. In she walks, and upon seeing the projects, looks me dead in the eye. She now has a decision to make. 1, ask me what the heck happened, or 2, tell the students to their faces what a great job they did. She opted for choice 2, going on and on about how great everything looks and how proud she was of the students, while I had the biggest smile on my face knowing how crappy they turned out. I thanked her for suggesting to have the students build it, as she left with essentially a pile of scrap wood. The projects never made it to the cafeteria. I resigned from that school and took a job that paid $12,000 more at a place where I was valued. They ended up keeping the position and begged me to stay on board. I realized resigning was my best option because I could get an early jump on all of the new openings as opposed to being let go at the end of summer, which would leave me with the worst schools that could not find a teacher. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that just because she recently became a foster parent does not mean she's a supermom? Buckle up, ladies and gents. I'm probably the jerk, or at least I feel like a dumb jerk currently. So I'm 26, female, and I have a 7-year-old daughter. My sister, my twin, has chosen to never have her own kids and to be a foster mom. She was approved for this going on a month and a half ago, and as of 3.5 weeks later, she was chosen to foster a 10-year-old sweetheart of a boy. She has only had him for around 2 weeks. I have always been supportive of this decision. Now my issue is that since she has had this boy in her care, she has become overbearing. Mommy mode kicked in full force, which is great, but she is now overstepping everyone else with their own kids. For instance, she recently read a book that stated kids ages 10 and under should have no more than 30 minutes of screen time a day, as it stunts mental growth. So now, every time she's over, she will flip off my TV, which I use for music, as my daughter doesn't really watch TV. Or she read somewhere that if you even so much as speak loudly, even while laughing, it triggers kids' minds and upsets them. So now, whenever she is at any of our homes, she instantly slaps her hands over our mouths if we are too loud because she doesn't want to upset the boy. The final straw was her coming over yesterday and saying she needed to talk to my daughter alone. When my daughter came back in, she was crying. I asked her what was going on, and she said, "Auntie told me I'm not being nice because I wouldn't let Christopher play with my special doll, and that I made him upset because he doesn't have anything special, so I need to share. She said I need to let Christopher play with it." Her special doll is kept on her shelf and not even played with by her, as her deceased grandfather gave it to her. It's a collectible. My sister was sitting there with a smile on her face and said, "See? All taken care of," and then proceeded to walk to my daughter's room to grab the doll. I lost it. I told her to leave, and just because she has been a mom for 2 weeks does not make her a super mom, and that her actions are making it harder to deal with her. I told her that once she learned to act like an adult and stop forcing all of us to follow her pathetic rules, she would be allowed back, but not a moment before. I also told her that the doll is staying on the shelf and I don't give a darn who that offends. She's saying that I'm an insensitive jerk and will not be allowed to be around my nephew until I apologize. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know.
I think her sister needs to stop reading all those books and give her a good manga instead.
Man gets his car crushed by not paying his repair bill. Not my story, but my father's. Took place in the early 2000s. He's a master mechanic who can literally work on any car, foreign or domestic. He's teaching me right now, and it's an honor to learn from him. He's always run his own independent repair shop almost as long as I can remember, and he told me this story recently, and it just seems perfect for this sub. So this guy comes in with a pretty nice Chrysler convertible to get his transmission fixed. He had to remove the transmission, disassemble, and rebuild it. Pretty long process, but it's no problem. After a day's work, he calls the customer up and says his car is ready and reminds him of the agreed price of about $1,200. The guy said he could only pay $600 then, and he'd have to get back to him on the rest. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary. Where we live, most people aren't exactly wealthy, and my dad's a nice guy. He single-handedly supported 4 kids and a wife, so we weren't exactly rich. It's not uncommon for people to pay in installments. He doesn't charge interest or fees or anything, just tries to do what's right. The guy pays half his bill, and with the promise of paying the remaining amount in a few weeks, he leaves with his car. About 2 months pass, however, and the guy hasn't paid. Hasn't even contacted my dad about any issues or to say something like he lost his job or something. So my dad calls him up and asks when he thinks he'll be able to pay the rest of his bill. And I kid you not, this is how the conversation went. Dad: "Hi, I was wondering when you'll be able to pay the rest of your bill." Guy: "Oh, yeah, about that. I'm not paying it." Dad, surprised: "What? Is something wrong with the car? If something went wrong, I'll take care of it." Guy: No, the car runs great. I'm just not gonna pay you." Dad: "What? Why?" "Well, I have the car now, so I don't see any reason to pay you." They went back and forth a bit before my dad realized it was pointless and decided to enact some sweet revenge. He calls up a local towing company and gives them the guy's address, license plate, and car description and tells them to tow the vehicle to the county recycling center. He then calls up the recycling center and says, "Hey, you're going to be getting a Chrysler convertible. Here's the license plate from this towing company. When it gets there, I want you guys to crush and recycle it." And so they do. Car was crushed and recycled. The next day, the guy shows up at my dad's business furious with the state patrol. My dad explains the entire story, and the cops tell the guy that technically the vehicle was moved, not stolen. The recycling center received recyclable goods and not stolen property, and now the car no longer exists as it's been recycled, and thus was not a criminal matter but a civil one. So the guy sues my dad, and once again, my dad explains the entire story, and amazingly, the judge says the same thing as the troopers and dismissed it. It sounds almost unbelievable because it just seems so illegal, but if a judge rules in his favor, it's gotta have some merit by a technicality or something. Granted, this was maybe 15 years ago, so the laws could have changed since, but wow, this guy gets his car crushed simply because he chose not to pay the remaining repair bill and wanted to take advantage of someone's kindness. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's sister in front of the entire family that I don't care about her opinion? She is 43 and I'm 29, female. I've been with my boyfriend for 2.5 years. I have a 3, almost 4-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. I only just met my boyfriend's sister this past year because my boyfriend and I both live out of state. Now, within the first week of moving back to this state is when I met her. My daughter obviously came with me, and she's not a fan of strangers at all. She clung to me the entire time and refused to be put down. This is the first encounter with this woman, and it really sets me off. Her one and only reaction to seeing my kid in obvious discomfort around strangers was to tell me I needed to put my kid down and let her scream because she needed to learn she wasn't going to get her own way. My boyfriend, who is a godsend, took my daughter upon hearing this and brought her outdoors to play and basically told his sister that it was none of her business. For a while, she toned it down, though the comments did come often. There were more passive-aggressive comments that weren't spoken to me, such as, "Everyone babies their kids today," or, "When I was growing up, I was lucky to get any attention if I acted the way some of these kids act." Because of these comments, we do not go over there often, and I'm far from close with her. Fast forward to last weekend. She had a small birthday party for her niece. She tends to go all out during these events because she has no kids of her own and cannot have them. She invited over 20 people and we didn't know any of them, including my boyfriend, who collectively knew like 6 people. My daughter was super overwhelmed and again wouldn't let me set her down. My boyfriend's sister took this as a moment to call me out in front of everyone while having a conversation with her sister-in-law, my boyfriend's brother's wife, who is pregnant with their first kid. She said, "See, you need to nip that in the bud early on or you will have a Klingon and end up going to college with them." A lot of people laughed. My face was beet red. I was embarrassed, overwhelmed, and irate. My boyfriend immediately jumped to my defense and his sister put her hands up and said, "I'm just saying." This is when I responded with, "And we don't give a darn about your opinion on how I should and shouldn't raise my daughter." We then took leave. My boyfriend is now getting messages from people that were there, who have never heard how terrible his sister can be to me and my daughter, stating that I acted disrespectful and that I need to drop my attitude. That since I am now a part of this family, that I need to start taking people's opinions and applying them, and that calling her out in front of everyone was a jerk move. They also tried saying that the sister started crying in front of everyone after we left and said, "I feel so hurt and disrespected that I need to go have a moment by myself," and apparently went upstairs to her room for 20 plus minutes. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister-in-law? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for not sharing my kids' college funds with my sister's kids? Me, 36, female, and my twin sister Amanda, 36, female, were the stereotypical daddy's girls. We were very attached to our dad, who was a super dad, the most present dad possible without being controlling or annoying. Dad's family came from old money. He is filthy rich, close to billions. Growing up, he spoiled me, Amanda, and my two other brothers a lot. We come from a very privileged family. One thing about Dad is that he really loves weddings. He's a bit of a romantic and very traditional in that sense, and growing up, we always remember him saying that he couldn't wait for the day to walk his little princesses down the aisle. It was a pretty huge thing for him. When my older brother, 41, got married on his 1-year anniversary in 2011, Dad gave him a house as a wedding anniversary gift. It was a pretty huge and expensive house, close to $3 million, and started a tradition in our family. My younger brothers got the same thing. When I got married in 2018, my dad was really thrilled about the whole thing, and he gave me a blank check for the ceremony. My brothers got the same deal, and it was beautiful. He walked me down the aisle and was really emotional about it. One of the few times I saw him cry. I received a house in my first wedding anniversary. When Amy got engaged, Dad was really excited too. 1 week before the wedding, Amy drops the bomb. She was going to walk down the aisle alone. Dad was really sad with this whole thing, but she said that she wasn't anyone's property to be given away, that she was independent and a grown woman. True, she is more independent than I will ever be. That this was an inappropriate tradition that she wouldn't want to participate in. Despite Dad begging her, she didn't kneel. Dad paid for the whole wedding. She offered him the traditional father-daughter dance, but he refused. His logic was that, if you don't want me to act like your father in a traditional way, I won't. Skip to 1 year after the wedding. Dad didn't give Amy anything. When she confronted him about it, he gave her a receipt for a donation of $3 million to the National Women's Law Center. Amy is a lawyer, in her name, and she tried to argue but couldn't really say anything. When my and my other brother's kids were born, Dad started a college fund for each one of them. It's supposed to achieve $2 million when they reach 18. Last week, Amy discovered about the funds and asked Dad about it. She has 3 kids, one who's 7, one who's 5, and one who's 2. Apparently, Dad has been giving the money that was supposed to go to her daughters to the NWLC to help other independent grown women like her. Amy is furious at our dad, and they currently are not speaking right now. She asked us, me and our other brothers, to share our kids' college funds with her kids because Dad is a mean jerk and is punishing her kids. We refused because it's not like our kids are getting the money that was supposed to go to her kids. She's giving us the silent treatment since then. I'm having doubts right now, Reddit. Am I the jerk here? Well, what do you think? Should OP and her brothers share their kids' college funds with her sister or not? Please let us know.
I wish I could have had a dad like that.
You're too old to play video games, you creep. So I recently went to Walmart. I don't generally go to Walmart because I don't like the atmosphere, but been stuck at home for a while and needed to get some social interaction and wanted to grab some stuff to work on the outside area. Just some plants and soil and whatnot. While walking through Walmart, I decided I would look at the video game section. I was looking at the Nintendo section when I noticed that they have one new Nintendo 2DS XL left. Not only is this the last one, it's the last Nintendo console they have. I was blown away. Recently, I had been doing some DoorDash to earn some extra cash, so I decided to splurge. I grabbed a person and was asking about honoring the GameStop price. Walmart still offers the price match guarantee, and GameStop had theirs $50 cheaper. The person agrees and says he needs to go find someone with keys to open the case. I stand there, waiting and flipping through Reddit for about 10 minutes or so, when a woman, entitled parent, and her son, the brat, and a Walmart associate comes up. I look up, nod my head, and look back at my phone. Out of the blue, I hear the kid shout, "That one, right there!" The shouting had startled me, so I looked up to see the Walmart associate getting ready to unlock the case. I then stop him and say, "Excuse me, I've been here for about 10 minutes waiting for someone to unlock the case to grab that item." Keep in mind that the only item in the case is the Nintendo DS. Entitled parent,
Well, sorry, but we beat you to it. Better luck next time. Maybe you should grow up instead of wasting your time on stuff made for kids.
I kid you not, those were her words. No exaggeration. I was immediately furious, and it takes a lot to push me over the edge. How could you talk to a total stranger like that? I wasn't rude in the slightest. Just mentioned I had been waiting for someone already. Now I understand. Am I really such a jerk that I'm going to deprive a kid, maybe about 10, of the only DS they have? Well, yes, merely because I had been waiting and she was rude about it. Me. Ma'am, that was uncalled for. There is no need to be rude. I have been waiting for an associate for almost 15 minutes to get this item, and unless you've been waiting longer, I'm going to stand firm that I have the right to it.
That's total BS. I've been here for almost an hour and have been waiting for an associate for almost that whole time to unlock the case.
Walmart associate, secretly my hero. Wait, you just came up to me a few minutes ago. If this guy has been waiting longer, it's his discretion on what he wants to do. Entitled Mom.
I had asked someone before you. Duh.
Not a joke. She said duh.
Where is the manager? This is ridiculous. I'm not going to tell my son, who has wanted this for over a year, he can't get one because some creep wants to play with toys.
I would like to reiterate that few will believe this, but this story is true and there is very little to no exaggeration at all. This woman really was this crazy. Brad.
Mom, tell him to get it. Tell him to get it.
At this point, the kid keeps chanting this because the associate has stopped until the manager arrives.
Wow. You are really going to make a child cry over your selfishness. You really are a piece of work, you know that? Do you know how sad it is to let a kid cry because you literally are taking a toy right out of his hand?
Associate. Ma'am, please calm down. There is no need to be nasty. The manager will come and we will see who inquired first. This whole time I kept completely quiet. Associate, the first one I had asked to open the case, comes up. We'll call him Associate 2. Associate 2. Sorry that took so long. I couldn't find a key. Is there a problem? At this point, the two associates are discussing the situation. I'm texting the insanity of this to my wife, and the kid is crying really loudly. Finally, the manager arrives. Manager goes and talks to associates for a few minutes, and Entitled Mom answers her phone.
I know I'm taking too long. Some creep is trying to take the last toy, and the moron at Walmart is actually trying to let a grown man take a toy away from a kid. I know, what a joke. It's okay, the manager is here.
Manager then signals for me to walk over away from the kid and the mother. Manager. So, based on what I know of this situation, you were here first. Now, that means it's up to you what you want to do. I understand this lady has been very rude, but I just wanted to talk with you for a second. I am keen to keep things calm over here, so what I can do for you is give you the original discount plus $20 off when the next round comes in if you're okay with waiting. Me. I'll admit I'm not stoked about it, but I appreciate your help. Manager. Thank you. This entire time, Entitled Parent went off on the associate, claiming that this was by far the most insane thing she's ever seen. Walmart supports creeps like me, and then calling the news and informing them that they let a creep buy all the toys. Manager. Okay, this gentleman has decided to wait for them to come back in stock if you want to take this one. Entitled Parent. This is for real.
Are you kidding me? This jerk kept me here for over 20 minutes.
It was more like 10 tops.
Just to finally agree to let my son have it? Forget him.
Manager. I spoke with him and we came to an agreement on terms that worked best for everyone involved. Entitled Mom.
Wait, he was the person who caused all this BS? And you offered him free crap? That's BS. I was the one that was subject to sitting here while he played this stupid game. What are you going to do for me, for my time, and letting this make my son so upset?
Manager. Ma'am, you are getting the item. I'm sorry that this took a second, but I had to get all of the information.
That doesn't answer my question. You're letting this loser get all kinds of discounts for literally being a creep and a jerk and making my son cry. But I get nothing but what I deserve in the first place? God, this is insane. And Walmart Corporate will be hearing about this.
At this point, I walked away and chuckled to myself. A week later, I got the call that they had another one in, and I went to pick it up. Wow. Just wow. Update. So a few of you had some questions about missing details. 1. I didn't change my mind as a favor to the manager. He was trying to work with me, and I didn't want to disrespect him. That lady I didn't care about much at all. 2. I understand that Walmart doesn't offer the price match guarantee any longer. I assumed that's why they had offered to price match it, but truth is I asked them and they honored it. Plain and simple. That is a minor insignificant part of the story, so not sure why so many people are offended by this. 3. We exchanged information, phone numbers, when we had our conversation. Didn't really see it necessary to add to the story. Karen loses it over my t-shirt. Never thought I would need to post here, but here we go. In the mood of the spooky season, I bought a t-shirt from a souvenir shop that says, "Let's summon demons." It's dark for some people, I get it, but it's Halloween season, so I didn't care. I just moved to this area, and anything that I wear that's too different, I get stared down. I'm a pretty big girl, so normally they just look in disgust, but go back to what they were doing. But no, not yesterday. My fiance and I were in the mall near my new apartment. I was wearing my shirt while my fiance was wearing his usual polo and jeans. As we were in the mall, I get my fair share of, "What the heck is she wearing?" looks from employees. I wanted to go to a well-known body wash place to buy hand soap. My fiance knows how long I would possibly take, so he left to go to a game shop. While I'm in the store, I find the hand soap and start reading which one is which. As I'm looking, I see maybe 4 more people come into this empty store. A mom and her daughter. I only know that because of the rest of the story. And 2 older women, which I assume to be an aunt and a grandmother. The daughter was about 17-ish. She runs directly to body wash set behind me on the display table. I find my soap and put it in the bag and walk to the other side of the store. Then I hear, "Excuse me." I look behind me and it's the daughter. "Oh, my bad, you don't work here. I thought you were stocking the store." I was in no way dressed like the employee, but whatever. "Yeah, sorry, no, I don't work here. But since I love this store, I probably can help you." She then asks me for a certain scent, and since I could see it from where I was standing, I showed her. She looked at my shirt and started asking me where she could buy one and blah blah blah. I gave her all the details and even told her where the store was in the mall. She starts laughing about how I must know the mall very well. I guess her mom heard her talking and walked towards us. "Come on, daughter, I found your scent." Entitled mom grabs the daughter's arm. "Wait, mom, look at her shirt. I really want one. It's so cool." I smile and look at the mom. As she reads my shirt, her face starts to turn into a look of disgust, like if she had just seen roadkill splatter on the windshield. It was very awkward, and she didn't even try to hide it. This is not word for word, but this is basically what happened. Entitled mom. "No, you don't need a shirt like that." Grabs her daughter. Daughter pulls back. "No, mom, I'm talking." I just stand there confused. Entitled mom. "Listen, I know that it's Halloween, but my sweet baby does not need to see this crap when going to the mall. What's wrong with you? Are you possessed?" Me. "Listen, I don't care if you like it. And girl, if you want the shirt, you can afford it without your mom being in the way." I start to walk away. Entitled mom starts to follow me around the entire store, calling me names and saying how I shouldn't be welcomed at my college. I go to a well-known private Catholic university nearby. She knows because my keychain is hanging out of my pocket that says the school. She starts yelling and asking for my name so she can call the school. I literally tried my best to finish my shopping and to leave, but none of the workers helped me. I checked out with her still behind me yelling. I get done and she yells that I'm stealing and that the police need to be called. Luckily, the workers didn't do it. She continued to block me from leaving the store and she grabbed my arm trying to drag me back in the store, so I slapped her. Entitled mom starts crying. Her daughter grabs her and she looks at me with the most apologetic look. My fiance was standing outside the door, thank God, and grabbed my hand and rushed me to the food court to get me to calm down. I thought that was the end, but nope. Entitled mom literally must have called the store security and they were looking for me around the mall. They eventually found me. Security searches my bags and looks at the receipts, then asks me about why I smacked her. I told them I can explain everything. Entitled mom is yelling at the other security guards, saying, "Don't let her get away with putting her hands on me." To sum up the rest, basically I got set free. Entitled mom was let go without security calling the police or letting me figure out who she was because I want to press charges. I can't believe this even happened over a shirt. I'm really upset about the whole thing. My fiance has been calming me down. My university takes things like this very seriously. They are currently doing an investigation of their own to find out who that lady was and why the mall didn't do anything to really help me. A lot of people have asked why no one did anything. I don't know about the employees, but for the sake of the customers, the mall was only allowing 25% of people in, plus there was like maybe 20-ish people from what I saw in the mall. To clear up on why my university is involved, a couple of years ago, a guy was basically hunted down from a convenience store all the way back to the campus. They were bothering him at the store and chased him back, calling him names and threatening him. Parents and students asked what the school was going to do, so they made up a little task force of law people to help students figure out the green light for situations that need to be dealt with by the law. The task force holds people from the school's law team and campus police. Update: I just got off the phone with my school's lawyer. They said I definitely have a case that she's willing to help me with. She said that I had a meeting with them tomorrow and that all I need to do is work with them. What would you do in this situation? Would you press charges on Karen or not? Please let us know.
Next time, wear a live, laugh, love shirt instead.
Crazy roommate's mom hates me. Okay, this happened when I was about 20 years old and I had already been living on my own for about 2 years at this point. I was talking to a good friend of mine, let's call her E, telling her about how I was looking into finding a new apartment that was a better distance from college and work, maybe something a little cheaper too. She kind of perked up and eventually brought up the idea that we get a place together. We were both great friends. We liked the same food, music, movies. We loved art and writing too, so I thought it would be a great idea and I would cut the cost of the bill. Not long after, we found a place that was perfect for roommates. The only drawback was that there was no fireplace. My old place had one, but that certainly wasn't a deal breaker, so we put down the payment and began to move in the following day as it was move-in ready. I should have known her mother was going to be a problem before we had even finished moving in, but I just didn't realize how much of a problem she was until later. I had brought along my mom, dad, sister, and my sister's husband to help me move. I brought a washer and dryer, queen bed, couch, and kitchen table to the mix. After all, I had been on my own for a while, so I pretty much had the whole shebang, and all she had was her bedroom stuff, as this was her first time living away from home. Anyway, I had promised to buy pizza for everyone and already had some soda cooling in the fridge, so after moving day, I could feed my helpful family. E's mom was there too, but she only helped bring in E's stuff, and once my couch was moved in, she just sat on it and watched as we did everything else. When E was helping us out, her mom griped that,
"My daughter is not your slave,"
she whined. E had offered to help, but we didn't ask or make her do anything. Besides, this was her place too. I can promise she'll eat at our table sometime. Eventually, everything was inside, and I decided to order the pizza, and her mom spoke again.
"I want veggie supreme on my pizza,"
she said. I frowned at this. I'm okay with veggie pizza, but I know what the rest of my family likes, and I was only ordering 4 pizzas. No one here really likes all veggie pizza. I guess I could do one that is half veggie, I offered.
"What? You mean I do all this work and I don't get my own pizza?"
She was literally shrieking. Of course not. We're all sharing these. Thankfully, E intervened and offered to get her mom her own pizza, although I could hear her grumbling the whole time that her precious daughter is so generous and I'm so selfish. By the way, her and E shared that pizza. I was exhausted by the time everyone had left, and it was pretty late when I had finally set up at least half my bedroom, so I crashed and went to sleep. I didn't have work for the next 2 days, and it was a weekend, so no college either. So I was looking into a nice long sleep and using days to set things up and make our apartment into a home. Unfortunately, the next day, I was rudely awakened by a loud banging on our front door. It was 5:30 a.m. I was about to get up, but I heard E answering it, and unsurprisingly, it was E's mom. I knew E and her mother were close, and I think she secretly hated me for stealing her daughter when moving together was not my idea, but whatever. I grumbled but went back to sleep, waking up again a few hours later. I made myself something to eat, and not a moment later, E and her mom walked in with bags of groceries. Apparently, they had went shopping in the earlier hours. As she set the bags down, she looked at me with that familiar tinge of disgust, which I will become accustomed to.
"Listen, we just spent over $100 at the store today getting things that you can both use. I expect at least half of what I bought to be reimbursed right now,"
she demanded. She made sure E was out of earshot before saying this to me. Excuse me? You can't be serious. I'm not giving you any money. You went out shopping with E and bought a bunch of stuff that I had no say in whatsoever. If I went along, I would have gotten these things myself, but it was choice to buy things without at least consulting me, and now you want my money? No way, I said firmly. She was used to her daughter pretty much doing whatever she asked, and I'm fairly certain she was shocked that I talked back to her, considering she just opened and closed her mouth like a gaping fish. These encounters happened often. Her mom coming over at ungodly hours and coming over a lot too, at least 4 to 5 times a week. If she knew I was home, she always tried to watch TV loudly to wake me, but E shut her down completely on doing that. E would stand up to her sometimes. She would often take E shopping and demanded money from me until I told E about it, and that finally stopped too. She always praised her daughter and thought of me as a selfish jerk, but I couldn't care less about what she thought. I still remember one day I was in my bathroom. We had separate personal bathrooms, taking a shower before work, and when I walked out, there was E's mother sitting on my bed, actually sitting on my work clothes I had laid out, her arms folded across her.
"We need to talk,"
she said snootily, but I went ballistic. "You crazy jerk, get out of my room. I never invited you ever to come in here. I'm in a towel for goodness sake, and you want to talk?" She stood up about to speak, but I cut her off. "Get out," I screamed at her. She seemed upset, but left my room, and I had to re-iron my clothes since she apparently had no decency or sense of others' privacy. When I saw her again, I told her flat out if she ever went into my room again and I wasn't there and didn't invite her, I'd slap her into next week. I was done being anything but mean to this woman because she treated me with nothing but hatred, so why even try? Thankfully, about 3 months later, she mellowed a little. She stopped showing up so early and stopped stopping by so often, and when she did visit, she would make a snide comment about not feeling welcomed. But honestly, as far as I was concerned, she wasn't welcomed. Her and E would leave as soon as she arrived. One weekend, me and E held a small get-together. A few guys, a couple of girls, and of course me and E. We were having snacks and playing Guitar Hero, full-on mic, drums, guitars. It was a blast, and we were having a great time. All of a sudden, a loud banging was on our front door, and I mentally groaned. Only E's mother knocks like that. E sighed and opened the door, and as soon as her mother saw the group, she gave this fake gasp in horror.
"Oh my lord, why are there boys over here? It's already 7 p.m. It's too late for them to be here,"
she said, extremely overreacting. Keep in mind, I'm 20 at this point and E is 22. "We're just having fun, Mom. Besides, it's not a big deal. We have guys over all the time. These guys are our friends," E said, seeming to be just as confused as I was. She acted like our apartment was her house and her rules were no boys allowed.
"I expect this kind of behavior from her,"
her mom said, pointing at me accusingly.
"I know she's nothing but a jerk, and I know you are a good girl and would never let these boys over without talking to me about it first,"
she said. I was upset. Thankfully, before I lost it, E actually yelled at her mom, which probably had a more lasting effect than me. "Mom, how dare you say such a thing about my friend? She has been extremely patient with you about how rude and terrible you are whenever she's around. You are horrible to her, and yet she still has never asked you to get out of the house or to stop coming over. But to call her such a terrible thing, it's my turn. Get out," she said firmly.
"Oh, you can't be serious. I'm your mother."
She was whining now like she was ready to cry. "I'm serious. Get out. Go home, and unless you call first, don't come over here. We won't be opening the door for you. Also, next time you call, I'm handing the phone directly to Jay, me. And if the first words out of your mouth are not a sincere apology, we won't be talking again," E said.
"You can't make me apologize for the truth,"
she said, tears starting to fall. "Get out already. I swear I will call the police," E screamed at her, and her mom stormed out, sobbing as she did so. I was so proud of E, I hugged her, and after all was calmed down, our friends included, we resumed our fun Guitar Hero games. It took almost 3 weeks before finally, after hundreds of calls, not being an apology to me, she finally relented and said she was sorry for all the name calling and being so rude towards me. I'm sure she didn't mean it, but I accepted the apology anyway. She was better after and did call before coming over, but she was still rude whenever she thought she could get away with it. When it was time to renew our lease, I had to tell E I couldn't live with her anymore. Honestly, because she came with her mom, and I was kinda through with living with my parents and much less living with hers. Thankfully, she understood. I got my own place and she moved back home. We're still friends to this day and still close to one another, so thankfully this didn't ruin our relationship. Thanks for reading. Have you ever dealt with someone like E's mom? And if so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
She's just trying to protect her daughter.
Am I the jerk for leaving my Zoom class because my teacher didn't care that I was in the hospital? So I, 13, female, am in the hospital because I was having some pretty bad seizures. I'm epileptic. At my school, we have PE every other day. Yesterday, I emailed my PE teacher, I'll call her Miss R, and said I'm in the hospital and I can't come to PE that day. I had done all my other classes, but my teachers usually let us keep our camera off. Also, my parents work during the day, so I was alone other than the nurses. She emailed back and said that I still had to come even if I couldn't do anything. She didn't ask if I was okay or anything. The way our Zoom PE works is we take attendance, then we fill out a sheet on the healthy things we've eaten that day, and then we exercise. I usually ride my station bike at home. When I got into the class, the teacher made me put my camera on. When I turned it on, she didn't acknowledge the fact that I was hooked up to IVs and had a wrap on my head that made me look like an egg, though I could tell all the other kids were curious. Well, then it was time for the exercise part. Didn't get up from the camera because I couldn't really exercise. Then she asked why I wasn't exercising. I replied that I'm not supposed to get up from the bed. She asked why, and I didn't want to say it in front of the whole class, so I said, I don't know. She didn't like that and said we should brainstorm things I could do. I thought it would be something like my homework for other classes, but she was suggesting things like jumping jacks or burpees. She was saying it right in front of everyone, and I was really uncomfortable. She started getting mad that I wasn't willing to work with her or being cooperative. She said if I didn't know why I couldn't get out of bed, then I probably could and just didn't know it. I just left the meeting and was so embarrassed I almost cried. Then after school, some girl that had been in my class messaged me on Instagram and asked why I left the meeting. I told her that I was uncomfortable, and she kept saying I could have just told my teacher why I was in the hospital, but I didn't want to say it in front of everyone. The teacher gave me an F for the day, even though I filled out the sheet thing. She also marked me absent from the class and emailed my mom that I wasn't participating in class. I explained what really happened to my mom, but she doesn't speak English, so there isn't much she can do. But most people seem to think I should have just said in front of the entire class why I was in the hospital. So, am I the jerk for not? Edit. Since someone in my DMs were curious, my mom only speaks Amharic. Edit 2. My doctors wrote a note to the school saying what was going on, and it was my guidance counselor's decision if I had to go to classes or not. My guidance counselor said I did have to because she didn't want to do the extra work. Edit. I'm taking a break from reading replies for the rest of the night. I will catch up in the morning. My inbox currently has over 200 replies, and it's kind of overwhelming. It's not a taxi, but I'll take the cake. This happened in the early 2000s, 02 or 03. A small background is needed. At that point in my life, I'm a third-year nursing student in the capital. I'm sharing my apartment with a good friend, and he is sharing his car. The alleged car was the major factor of the story. It was a brand cherished by taxi drivers and also yellow, the color of taxis in the capital. The major differences from a taxi were the lack of the taxi sign and that it was a hatchback. Taxis are sedans. It was common for someone to flag us down thinking it was a taxi until we came closer. Anyway, it was summer and my friend was island hopping with his fiance and had left the car behind. I had woken up to almost an empty fridge, and since I was paid the day before, I decided to forego the small convenience store in my neighborhood and drive to the big supermarket. I jumped in the car and took a major road artery to the store. I'm stopped in front of a bus stop waiting for the light to turn green when the back door opens and closes and I hear a woman's voice saying the name of a hospital. I turn around to say it's not a taxi, but I stopped in my tracks. A sweet old lady had entered the car. She was around 65 to 70. She's clutching her purse so hard, her knuckles turning white. She's clearly panicked. She keeps mumbling, "Please hurry, she went into labor, please hurry." I put the car into gear and start driving towards the hospital. Nurse training kicks in and I start to talk to her to calm her down. She starts to calm and I get the whole story. Her granddaughter, 19 at the time, was pregnant and had a rough pregnancy. An hour ago, she went into a premature labor and the grandma was panicking. We reached the hospital 20 minutes later. The guard at the entrance knows me because of hospital rotation. I drive up to the entrance and drop her. As she's trying to pay me, I tell her it's on a house. At that point, she realized it wasn't a taxi and got a bit embarrassed and tried to give me the money again. I advised that if everything went well, send me a cake. Little did I know. 2 weeks later, my roommate is back and receives a call from the police. They wanted to find out if he was the owner of the car and if he could go to the station. My roommate asked me if anything had happened with the car while he was gone. I said no, having almost forgotten the incident. I decided to tag along and go to the station. We're met by an officer who guides us to an office. Inside is the sweet old lady with a box. She jumps up, shouting, "That's him!" and hugs me. The officer is smiling. He's the father of the granddaughter and now a proud grandfather. Apparently, the lady told him about the incident and how helpful I was. He used his status as a police officer to get the plate from the CCTV and find the owner and thank me. The baby would have to spend some time in the hospital due to being almost 2 months early, but otherwise all right. So I got the cake. On a final note, I met the girl by coincidence a couple of years ago. She has turned out fine and is studying to be a nurse. Change our expenditure accounts? The food bank will have a feast. This happened about 10 years ago when I worked for a company doing community nursing. We were provided with company cars and a prepaid card for expenditure, fuel and food. The card had a limit of 400 euros per week, the card resetting to the 400 limit every Monday morning. Despite the 400 euros limit, the usual amount any of us spent each week was around 150 to 200 euros, depending on travel. The usual was to get a full tank once a week, which was around 55 to 60 euros, and the rest was coffee and lunch. Enter Chad. He was the financial officer and had some pretty unique ideas about changing the finances of the company. One of the ideas he instituted was a change to our prepaid cards. He dropped the limit to 50 euros a day, with the card resetting every day. As you can understand, this was a problem, especially if you consider that a full tank cost 55 euros minimum. If you used the card for fuel, then the rest was paid out of pocket. We couldn't be reimbursed for the money because you have a company card. Learn to use it more efficiently. Initially, most coworkers were spending 30 euros on fuel and refueled 2 or 3 times a week, but not me. While my malicious compliance tendencies were natural, during my Navy service were honed to perfection by a couple of Master Chiefs. So, enter malicious compliance. I decided to spend each day 20 euros for fuel, some days less, pay for my own coffee out of pocket, and spend the rest at lunch. I used to patron a grill and barbecue place that had a catering side. They also volunteered for a local food bank and kitchen. The owner had grew up dirt poor and liked to help. A lot of clients would buy something and add a little extra to an open tab for the food bank. Then, the catering will go each Sunday and provide food for the homeless and the poor using the tab and funds from the owner. So I went there every day, got something to eat, and the rest of the amount until 50 euros would go to the tab. I started raising at least 90 euros a week for the food bank. I hit the limit every day, costing the company 250 euros a week from 150. Chad was furious. He was trying to save money and I was costing him more. He asked me to explain my expenses, food and fuel. He asked for receipts. I provided them. The receipt said food, nothing else. He finally said I should eat cheaper. I told him the company couldn't force me not to eat whatever I wanted. After that meeting, a couple of workers saw me coming out smiling and inquired about it. I explained what I was doing, the smiles on their faces. Soon afterwards, 6 nurses spent all their expenses the same way. The aftermath. This went on for 2 months. Chad was livid because now he was losing even more money. The solution came unexpectedly. Unbeknownst to all of us, the owner of the company was a major contributor to the food bank. He knew about the restaurant helping out and had seen the richer buffets. He asked the owner at the restaurant about it, and he said a few nurses had started coming, raising the tab, at that point 600 euros minimum. The owner put 2 and 2 together. I was called in for a meeting with the owner. I was anxious because I didn't know what it was about. When I got there, Chad was there also. During the meeting, Chad explained how he was losing money, but he couldn't do anything about it. I explained what our grievance was and how we took advantage of it. Chad replied we shouldn't game the system for something so stupid as a food bank. The owner stopped the meeting right there. He reinstated the old system for expenditure. He reprimanded both of us for the whole mess, me a bit less, and informed me that if I make a donation for the food bank to notify him and he will match it. The final result was getting our old system back, a weekly donation to the food bank, and a major Easter Sunday barbecue for the food bank sponsored by the company. Chad lasted only another 3 months because his penny-saving ways dropped the quality of care we could provide. I stayed with the company until it was sold to new owners who were more like Chad, but that's a story for another subreddit. Am I the jerk for canceling dinner plans to celebrate with my daughter because my stepson was upset? My daughter, 13, and stepson, 11, have not gotten along well since my daughter moved in. She had previously lived with her mother, but I got default custody after her mother turned one of her 24-hour disappearing acts into a never-coming-back one. My daughter and stepson go to the same middle school and were both running for student council VP. There was tension in the house, and my wife told my stepson that if he won, we could go out to celebrate. My daughter asked if this applied to her as well, since he wasn't her only competitor, and my wife said of course. The campaign got pretty stressful for the both of them. Then the votes come in, and my daughter wins by 4 votes. However, because somehow the one person who ran for treasurer this year dropped out because of grades, my stepson was offered that position. He saw it as a really pitiful consolation prize and was angry that he had to take orders from my daughter. I felt very bad for my stepson, and he and his mother, who is very type A, was very upset, even though, of course, my wife congratulated my daughter. My stepson refused to be comforted by the fact that older kids get more easily elected because they know more people, and his mother even offered to take her to law office and give him some responsibilities, saying that was better experience than student council would ever be. My stepson then said, "Please tell me you're not going to rub it in my face by taking us to dinner now?" My wife also looks really reluctant to go to dinner. I finally tell my daughter that we weren't going to be going to dinner because our stepbrother was very upset by the turn of events and we need to take his feelings into consideration, and that it was impolite to gloat. That all happened Friday. My daughter ended up crying, and even now, Sunday night, she's still mad at all of us. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for canceling the dinner with his daughter or not? Please let us know.
Oh, he wrong for that, bruh.
Am I the jerk for no longer inviting my brother to my house? Last weekend, I had a small get-together for immediate family only. They're in our social bubble, for my son's birthday. My brother bought my nephew, 8, to our house. He has a history of being destructive to people's homes, and my brother and sister-in-law do not discipline him. According to them, he just doesn't listen, so they just give him whatever he wants. This is not the first time my nephew has destroyed my house, or other relatives for that matter, and I finally had enough. The last time they were over, my son, 17, caught him mistreating our cat. After they left, we saw that he had dumped out all of our soap and shampoo in the bathroom on the floor, and my daughter, who's 15, slipped on the tiles. The last visit, he drew all over a brand new couch with the markers sister-in-law bought him to color with. I had asked her not to let him color on the couch, instead he should color at the kitchen table so it could be washed off. When I confronted my sister-in-law about it, she told me,
"It's just a couch. You can get slip covers."
I told her that wasn't the point, that once again he has come to my house and destroyed something, and I was tired of having to pay to clean/replace the things he destroyed. My brother intervened and said that I was being overdramatic and that he was just a kid. I told my brother that they needed to leave. The next day I called him and told him they weren't welcome back into my house and that they could either pay for someone to come clean the couch or for the cost of a replacement. My brother told me that it was never going to happen. An hour later, I got a call from my other sister who congratulated me for sticking to my guns, and she plans to do the same. My mom got wind of this and called me and told me that I was being out of line and that nephew didn't mean to do this and it was just an accident. That according to sister-in-law, you can barely see it and I was just trying to get a free couch. So I sent my mom a picture of the doodles on my couch that nephew made. She now agrees my brother should absolutely pay to clean the couch or replace it, but that I'm going too far by banning them from my home. I told her I disagreed and that he can always go to her house and destroy her stuff if she wants to see us all together. Am I the jerk for not inviting them to my house anymore? Well, who do you agree with, OP or his brother? Please let us know. A brief encounter with a Karen at the Ikea restaurant. So today, my husband took me shopping at Ikea for some random items we needed, but were unable to get due to previous public gathering restrictions. We decided to make a day out of it and grab some lunch at the Ikea restaurant while we're at it. Now, for clarification, due to what's going on, there's certain rules and procedures to be followed in Ikea, meaning that now you stand in queue, first to get your table number, then move forward to order and go take your designated seat, and one of the server wheels your food to you. All fine and dandy. We stand in line to get our table number, though the queue is kind of long and we're considering scrapping this idea and just go eat elsewhere. Right next to the window is a giant menu with items offered in the Ikea restaurant. The usual, meatballs, salmon, salads, and the like. In front of us stands a Karen with a kid in a stroller, which looked to be around 4. Karen stares at the menu and looks over at the restaurant employee handing out table numbers. Karen,
Do you have any chicken McNuggets?
silence. The employee is staring at her. We're staring at her. God and evolution are arguing in the background about whose fault this brain fart is, given that they are usually not served here at all. And the giant picture menu is quite clear on that subject. Not to mention that McNuggets are kind of a different restaurant chain's gig. Employee. No, we don't. I'm sorry. Karen.
You don't? What kind of a kid-unfriendly restaurant is this? My kid doesn't want to eat anything on your menu.
Employee. I'm sorry, madam. The menu you see to your left is all that is offered. Karen huffs, grabs the table number, and moves forward. The employee glances over at us, gives us a table number, and goes, "Oh, pardon me. Madam is pregnant. You don't wait. Please, just step here to the side and follow my colleague. He'll take you to the register so you can order." Karen head whips around so fast, I thought it might fall off. Her face is a picture of shock at the unjust treatment. She glares at my 8-month pregnant belly, then at the employee and screeches,
I have a child as well.
The employee, now with another one on tow, stares at her blankly and goes, "Yes, but your madam here is pregnant." I can sense him struggling not to say, "Well, you pushed yours out a while ago, didn't you?" As we leave with the other server, I can still hear her in the background, arguing that she has a kid and should be given the same treatment as a pregnant woman, while the Ikea employee is still patiently trying to explain to her that it's company policy that disabled people and pregnant women have the right to cut queue, and unless she or her son is disabled or she herself is pregnant, she can't cut in. 20 minutes later, we're done with our food and we stand up to leave. I spot Karen still in queue, third in line from the register, glaring at us. I resist the urge to wave and just pat my belly happily, then waddle away with my husband. I have no doubts that Ikea is getting a bad review on Yelp or something due to not serving McNuggets and not letting her entitled self cut in line, even though she played the kid card fairly early on. Karen demands shopper dress more appropriately. This happened this morning between 9 and 10 a.m. I went to the supermarket to grab a few things for lunch and dinner. It's early and slow, so the store only had the self-checkout and one register open. As I got to the register, I see a young woman, early 20s, with a sleeping baby in her arms and a basket with formula, diapers, over-the-counter baby items for rashes, and several prescriptions that were paid for at the pharmacy. The girl gets to the register before me, and then I saw the rampaging Karen come out of the aisle right in front of me. I knew there'd be trouble from the oversized sunglasses, Karen haircut, yoga pants 3 sizes smaller than they should have been, that I'll bet have never seen the inside of a gym or a yoga studio, and the very low-cut top that showed off a lot of skin that no one I knew wanted to see. She has maybe a dozen items in her cart. With the current situation, the clerk, the 20-something-year-old, and I are wearing the required masks. But of course, Karen can't be bothered. The store has markings on the floor for social distancing, but of course, that doesn't apply to the wild Karen. The young mother is holding the sleeping baby and trying to fish her wallet out of her small purse, while also holding the diaper bag and the usual baby accessories. The cashier hasn't even finished ringing the girl up when the wild Karen starts in a loud voice complaining about unprepared shoppers not even having their money ready. Karen's cart is almost touching the 20-something's leg. Naturally, Karen's complaint at full volume had the unfortunate effect of waking the sleeping infant, who registered his displeasure by letting anyone within hearing distance know. The mother was attempting to calm him down and get her wallet out of her purse. The fact that Karen had to wait and now had to listen to the infant she woke up caused another nasty tirade. I'm in line behind Karen at this point, and then she gets on my last nerve. She's been breathing the cashier for not being fast enough, and then God only knows what lack of brain cells caused her to do this, but snaps at the young mother that she should make the brat be quiet, and then decided to tell the girl, while snapping, that if she didn't dress like that, she wouldn't have gotten knocked up, since it was obvious that her jeans were too tight, as was her top. For goodness sake, she had a baby a couple of months before. The young mother was beet red, the cashier was in shock, the infant, not liking the noise, was letting it be known that he wasn't happy, and Karen had gotten on my last nerve, and being old, sick, and in a bad mood, and with worse temper, I let loose. I slipped up past Karen and tossed my card to the cashier and told them the young lady's bill is on me. That got Karen to start again, only for me to loudly say, "Shut up. I'm as tired of your mouth as the little man is." That stunned Karen, who only sputters. The young mother thanked me and gave the infant her full attention. Karen is fuming and starts heaving her items onto the belt, but apparently her mouth recovered before her brain. As soon as the cashier finished ringing her up and asked for payment, Karen turns towards me and sneered,
"Well, aren't you going to pay for mine as well?"
I was done with her and responded, "No, I don't like people who wake up sleeping infants with their big mouths." She huffed and stormed out. I was hoping for an
"I demand to speak to the manager,"
but you can't have everything. I headed to my car and was pulling out of the parking lot when I saw the young mother sitting at the bus stop holding the infant. Buses out where I live run every hour, so I decided to offer her a ride. Turns out she lived only a couple of miles away, under 5 minutes by car, but a couple of hours on foot carrying a baby and supplies. She took the risk that I could have been crazy since I snapped Karen's tirade. I learned that she and her husband were new to the area, moved here for his job. I asked her about the little man and learned that as her husband got paid, they bought more of the stuff the baby needed, but right now they were making do with what they had. I wrote an address down and told her that if her husband was off Saturday, she should have him bring them to the address for a yard sale with tons of baby stuff my niece was getting rid of, as she had had all the babies she's having and she has everything an infant could need. She told me that she'd do that and thanked me again for everything. I dropped them off and made it home and gave my niece a call describing the girl and infant and telling her to give the couple anything they liked and I'll cover whatever they couldn't afford. I like babies and have no tolerance for Karens. How dare anyone be in front of her or not dress according to your standards? You're nuts. Speaking of groceries, where do you get your groceries from? Please let us know.
Walmart all day, bruh.
Try to steal my kid's stuffed bear? Yeah, I don't think so. This happened earlier today, and I'm still livid about the whole ordeal. A little background. We have an almost 3-year-old son who always has his stuffed bear, Boo, and a binky with him. We just had our daughter a couple of weeks ago, and I'm currently on paternity leave. I'm unshaven and my clothes are pretty wrinkled. I do not look good. We head to our local Freddie Meyer to do some shopping and give mama a break from an excitable 3-year-old. On our way into the store, my son spots one of those shopping carts that's made up to look like a race car. Well, not grabbing it isn't an option, so we snag it and I dry it off the best I can with a spare blanket as it's been raining all day. My first experience with Entitled Mom took place as we were entering the store itself.
"Can I have that? My son really wants it,"
gesturing to the cart and to her maybe 4 or 5-year-old son. To which I just say, "Sorry, I already told my son he can have it." As she walks away, I clearly hear her mutter something about how my son is much too old to still have a binky. Whatever, it keeps him calm. Almost immediately, he demands to walk instead of ride in the cart. Cool with me. The store is pretty empty and he usually stays pretty close. So we leave Boo in the cart so he doesn't get misplaced and continue shopping. Well, this time he decided not to stay close. Again, as the store is basically empty, so we play a little chase and we end up a couple of aisles away before I catch him. I carry him back to our cart, but when I get to the aisle, the cart is just gone. Okay, I'm running on little sleep and an excessive amount of caffeine. I probably just mistook the aisle. Nope. After walking another couple aisles, we see Entitled Mom and her brat in our cart. Our groceries are mysteriously gone. I'm sure for some minimum wage stalker to find abandoned on a shelf. Immediately, my son starts screaming, "Boo back! Boo stuck!" Took me a second to realize that the brat was holding Boo. I am pretty annoyed about the cart, but it doesn't matter anymore. We are going to have to go home. This tantrum will last for quite some time. So I walk up and reach out for Boo, and Entitled Mom shrieks,
"What are you doing?"
My son's outburst has already caused quite a commotion, and before I can say anything, a staff of some sort is already here. Staff, is there anything I can help you with? Me, yeah, this woman took my cart, which had my son's toy in it, and I just want the toy back and to get this guy home. Entitled Mom.
"Liar, this is our cart, and I got my brat this teddy for being well behaved. Something he," gestures at my son, "could learn something about."
Me, lady, that's his favorite toy. Turning to staff, can we just look at the cameras? We need this back, and I don't have the energy to fight about this. At this point, Entitled Mom gets her brat to hand over the toy, and I turn to head out. As I'm walking away, she says something to the tune of,
"I'm sorry I gave away your toy, but sometimes it is better to just help those less fortunate than us."
I assumed she was trying to save face, and I knew that if I turned around and said anything, it would come out as a yell, which wouldn't help my son's situation. She isn't worth the effort. I've never been this angry in my life. Took a good 45 minutes to calm the little guy down. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I'll never invite his family again after he said I embarrassed him with my cooking? Title sounds horrible, but hear me out, please. So, I'm 35, female, and my husband, who's 37, male, his family recently moved to our town to live close to us and my brother-in-law, who got married a few months ago. My in-laws like to gather twice a month for dinner, and they'd have me and my husband visit, 3-hour drive, once a month. My mother-in-law wouldn't accept any excuses that I work and have kids to take care of. She always wants the family gathered at her house. Last week, while we were visiting their new house, my husband made me spend X amount of money for a gift that he didn't help with. Also had me carry boxes to help them move stuff into their house while my brother-in-law's new wife sat on the couch and was served with coffee and sweets. He told them that he wanted to invite them over for dinner the next day, and he didn't even consult with me first, so I had to take the day off so I could prepare meals. I made the main dishes, appetizers, salad, and pound cake. They arrived at 7 p.m. Mother-in-law and brother-in-law's wife didn't move a finger. They were busy criticizing my table setting and giving advice. I put dinner on the table, and my mother-in-law started asking why I used X ingredient instead of this ingredient, saying that she would have liked it. Then said that my salad was not necessary because no one liked this type of salad. My husband just agreed with her, telling me why I didn't do it this way or that way. I was getting mad and lost my appetite. Mother-in-law said the pound cake was not complete and didn't look delicious. My husband told her that he wanted to get one from the bakery, but I didn't allow him. The cake stayed the same while they ate what brother-in-law's wife brought and flattered her. After they left, I told my husband that his mom was being rude and mean to me the whole time, that he should have stopped her instead of agreeing with her. He said that he didn't defend me because I was in the wrong and what I cooked was not so great and that I embarrassed him in front of his family after having them try my cooking for the first time. I just got mad at him and told him I will no longer invite his family for dinners, and he didn't like that since he told his mom that we will regularly invite them for dinner. He called me too sensitive and that I should just focus on cooking what they like instead. He thinks I'm overreacting, but I'm so angry and feel like I've been insulted and disrespected in my own house. Well, who do you agree with, OP or her husband? Please let us know.
I want to know if there's anything actually good about him. I kind of doubt it, to be honest.
Am I the jerk for not letting my ex off the hook on child support so he can afford his new life? My ex-husband had a 4-year-long affair. I only came to learn about this because he got the other woman pregnant. We are now divorced, they are married, and they have a 2-year-old together. Ex and I share an 11 and a 12-year-old. As of last year, I have primary custody because he and his wife and their kid moved 4 hours away, which the courts considered too far to maintain 50-50 timeshare. The business X worked for collapsed due to everything that happened back in April, and X was out of work for several weeks. In that time, he asked me to take him off the hook for child support, which meant no back pay for the weeks, and because I said no, he brought me back to court. All the court did was readjust the amount he owed me because of their lost income. X's wife has since got a job, and he says they're still struggling because neither makes good money. He asked me again to let him off the hook. He said their daughter is suffering because between keeping the roof over their head and paying child support, there isn't much left to provide for her. I told him that's not my problem. My concern will always be our children. He claims if I can afford to provide for them without him for a period of time, it is the right thing to do because his other daughter is their half-sister, and as such, it is my role to make sure she is cared for too. Or at least it should be if I am a good mother and a caring person. I told him the discussion was over and I want the child support for my kids. Am I the jerk? Since everyone's asking, I get less than $300 a month in child support from him. I make enough where I can cover things myself. Some months are a little more rough than others, but I'm not a rich woman. I don't have a fancy house, car, or lavish lifestyle. I am a single mother working hard to provide for my kids. I rarely spend any of the child support. I do everything in my power to put money into my kids' savings, but sometimes when the money comes, especially in winter, I need it for something. I did not make my kids alone. I am not the only person responsible for providing for them. He hasn't seen them since last year and now wants to not provide for them. I pay medical expenses, school supplies, food, clothes, keeping a roof over their head. I buy Christmas and birthday gifts, even from him some years, because if they aren't with them, he sends nothing. I do my darn best to make sure my kids are taken care of. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let him off the hook or not? Please let us know.
Never let a deadbeat off the hook. Few things disgust me more than one who refuses to provide for their kids. Can I get an amen?
Entitled friends have hard set on a baby shower. My sister is pregnant. Great fun, big belly, the works. After the first wave, they had the gender reveal. It was great. Balloons, cake, didn't light the forest on fire. Somewhere at that time, the idea of a baby shower started and a WhatsApp group was created. Now, a baby shower is where you surprise the mother to be with a little party. I'm explaining this because surprise is the big thing in this story. Baby is due in December. We wanted to do it in November, but this month, the second wave is hitting hard and we are in a semi-lockdown. The lockdown restricts us to having only 3 people over from different households per day. When this was announced, the shower seemed off the table. Sister's mother-in-law was devastated. She's the sweetest woman I know, and she really wanted the shower because it's her first grandchild. So in her sadness, she informed my sister that they tried to do a shower, but with the new rules it wouldn't be possible. Sister understood. This was when the group went berserk. How dare she ruin the surprise? What surprise, you might say? Well, most of the girls wanted the party to go through as planned. I think the rest would be better to be done in chat mode. So we've got entitled friends, we've got me, we've got sister. Entitled friend. I think she really deserves it, especially in these times. Other entitled friend. If she really doesn't want a shower, she would tell somebody that. Me. But how can she tell she doesn't want something if she thinks any other form of shower is off the table? Entitled friend. She just isn't the type to turn down a party. Me. We can do an afterbirth shower when the wave has cooled down. Nah, we have a date now. If we cancel this, it won't ever happen. I decided I would be the scapegoat and just call sister to ask what she would want. Me. Dear girls, I do believe you want the best for sister. However, I feel there are too many assumptions made at this point. I called sister and asked how she felt about the shower in the upcoming month. She says that she really does not want a shower. She's limiting her contact with people because she doesn't want to get sick with the baby. Entitled friend. I'm going over there for dinner on Sunday with my significant other, and another couple is coming as well, so that's 6 people. I don't see why we can't do 10 people. Side note, I think 6 people from 3 households is not the same as 10 people from 9 households, but I had learned that arguing with these ladies was not going to do any good. Me telling sister they still want to go through, and sister sending me an app to screenshot what she does not want. Me, send the screenshot. Entitled friend. But what did you say to her? I only screenshotted her response and WhatsApp image. Me, just ask yourself if you don't believe me. Well, they did. So my sister went on a rant to me that her friends are being extremely selfish and that they should know that if I am her sister, they should just believe me, etc. So that part felt good. In the end, no party. No worries, she's gotten a lot of gifts from mother-in-law, and I gave her 1,000 diapers and 40 packs of baby wipes, so it's not like she's missing out on all the gifts. Am I the jerk for calling a guy stupid after he made assumptions about my family of 19? So, I've seen on other posts this sub isn't a huge fan of big families, so I wouldn't say this would be 100% unbiased, but please be as neutral as you can before you hear the story. Okay, so I'm 16 female, and from a family with 17 kids. Ages 25, 22, 22, 21, 19, 18, 16, 16, 14, 11, 9, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1, 1. But the difference between my family and many other big families is that my parents are amazing. First of all, my mom, 45, who manages people's finances for a living, was able to figure out how to balance books or whatever in order to have any amount of kids while she was pregnant with the oldest. Also, she's able to carve out alone time with everyone, and she's basically a superhero. Well, the other day I was hanging out with my friends, social distance of course, and one girl brought her new boyfriend. He was a bit weird and was kinda acting like he had always been there, and like we were his best friends, even though it was everyone's first time meeting him. But he was nice at first, so I didn't mind. Then I mentioned having 16 siblings. He was like, "Oh, that must suck." I replied that some parents do a bad job, but my parents are pretty good at raising a big family. Then he started making all these weird assumptions to try and convince me to hate my family. Like he would say, "But your parents force you to raise the younger siblings." And he wouldn't even say it like a question. I would reply, "Well, we do babysit, but my parents pay us like they would a babysitter." He was getting mad at me for not hating my family and calling me brainwashed and saying I was in a cult, blah blah blah. After his rant about how my parents don't feed me because I'm so skinny, they do, I just yelled, Well, I'm very sorry that I love my family and am happy. I'm not going to be depressed and cut off my family just because stupid idiots like you say I should when you meet me for the first time. He started telling me to calm down, even though he had just been yelling at me. Him and his girlfriend left, and the rest of the day was pretty good, and me and the rest of my friend group laughed about it. Well, his girlfriend messaged me and said to apologize for yelling at him. I said he should apologize for yelling at me. She says he shouldn't have to apologize because he was right. This is also more like a friend of a friend. Like, I used to like her, but we would never hang out alone or full-time or whatever. My other friend told me to post it on here. I listened to some of the popular Reddit stories on YouTube, but have never used the site itself. Anyways, am I the jerk? Edit. All the kids under 14 aren't my parents' biological kids. The 14-year-old, one of the 9-year-olds, and the 7-year-old are my aunt's biological kids that my mom adopted. The rest are adopted from foster care. Us older kids are biological though. Am I the jerk for kicking my pregnant niece and her new husband out of my house? This sounds awful, but hear me out. My big sister and I built a house with our income. It's designed so we each have separate living arrangements and such, but we get to live next to each other without bothering the other. So it's like two different apartments with a door that connects them. Well, a couple of years ago, I moved to another city, and my side of the house was left unoccupied. My sister's daughter, my niece, called me and asked for permission to move there while she was attending college. I didn't see an issue and told her she could. She didn't pay rent, but made sure to keep the place nice and tidy. This arrangement lasted for about 4 years. A few weeks ago, she announced to the family that she was pregnant and had married her boyfriend. I was a bit shocked by the news. She was fresh out of college and she had barely mentioned her boyfriend, so I'm guessing the baby was unexpected and they decided to get married before having it. But what shocked me the most was going back home to visit and finding out that her new husband, who I was meeting for the first time, is comfortably living in my house, and they're already turning one of my rooms into a nursery. I must admit that I got upset and had an argument with my niece. She had never discussed with me the possibility of extending her stay in my home, much less the fact that she wanted to live with her husband in my house. It wouldn't have been so upsetting to me if she hadn't altered one of the rooms already. My sister, her mom, is on her side and calling me selfish for asking them to move out, and she says that since she's the eldest, she has the right to say who can or cannot inhabit the house. I reminded her that I paid for my half of the place, but she's just not having it. This made me feel even angrier, so I just told my niece that she had 2 months to find a new place and it was my final decision. After I cooled down, I realized that I could have asked my niece to pay rent and called it a day, but I feel like she took advantage of my kindness and completely disrespected me and my house by sneaking her husband in and then changing a room in the house. She isn't even sorry. Her argument pretty much mirrors her mother's. Plus, since I'm not living in my own house, apparently it's so selfish of me to kick her out when no one is using the place. I'm astonished. Am I the jerk? Edit. Thank you for all your replies. I'm answering some questions. My niece and I had an agreement that she was living in my house just while she attended college, no more. She had to take an extra course, and thus she graduated just a month ago or so. So it hasn't been long, and I didn't want to kick her out as soon as she was done. She's family, and I was okay with letting her stay a bit more. We didn't have anything in writing about our first deal other than a stupid WhatsApp convo because I trusted her and my sister. I thought I was being the good and nice aunt by letting her live rent-free already. I did move to another city, but it's not permanent. I intend to move back to my old place in a couple of years after I'm done with a project in my current city, so I need that house. The nursery is now where my studio was. They painted the room, changed the floor to a carpeted one, and moved my furniture out. My stuff is conveniently being occupied by my sister in her house now. In paper, I own my side of the house completely. Precisely to avoid issues, we have a contract that stipulates the size of the property that's completely mine and the part that belongs to just my sister. Finally, we don't live in the US. I hope this info is helpful to those who had some questions. Well, what do you think? Should OP kick her out or not? Please let us know.
I would just charge them rent, but make it expensive. Moving him without even asking, and painting your office without asking was extremely rude. They need to pay for that.
Inventory discrepancies caused department to tank. I was a perishable food buyer for a large grocery store chain that has now been bought out by Amazon. We did inventory monthly. A part of my job was to prep inventory counting sheets with all the barcodes for each and every product I purchased that was used in our deli. There were a handful of products that simply did not have UPC codes in our discrepant inventory system online. Out of maybe 1,000 products, I had come across maybe 7 or 8 of these items that mysteriously had no UPC codes to make a barcode with. I brought this up in an email with my team leader, making sure to CC both assistant team leaders and all of the other shift supervisors. Mainly, I just wanted to bring this up with the team leader and ask for guidance on how we should handle these products come inventory night. I did not receive a response from her or any of the assistant team leads. I should have prefaced this with the fact that our team leader especially, and both other assistant leads had a habit of sitting upstairs in their offices running the crew through emails. It was a miracle to ever see any of them downstairs, especially the team lead. She was incredibly lazy and very out of touch with the crew. I had my computer downstairs in the kitchen, and it was me and the chef who essentially kept the place running. Come inventory night, still no reply on the situation about the missing UPC codes, so I figured the most generic solution would be to scan the weight of the items under the hot bar UPC at $10.99 a pound. This made sense to me, or so it seemed. The next morning, after maybe 5 hours sleep, inventory runs until 12 to 1 a.m. sometimes, and I start my next shift at 5 a.m. I get called up to the store leader's office. I had an idea of what it was about, so I brought my notes with me about the 7 or 8 items that had no codes. I had them in hand. When I walked into the store leader's office, there sat my team leader and both her assistants. I was scared and very nervous. She puts on a terrific show of how I cannot be trusted to do my job on my own, and that I was reckless with my inventory counting methods and would need extra supervision when counting. She was very obviously covering her own butt. This set me off big time, because I am the reason inventory even goes as smoothly as it does. Nobody there even has a clue on how to prep the inventory sheets, let alone create the barcodes to make them easy to scan in so quickly. That barcode aspect was a luxury I should add, because otherwise, every code is entered manually. On top of this all, I was extremely underpaid as well as extremely proficient at my job. I even came in one quarter at a whopping $0 over/underspent on my budget. This is almost humanly impossible. That means I brought in the maximum amount of profit with my budget without going over, not even by 1 penny. It was a glorious quarter. No one could understand how I pulled it off. Our department was also number 1 in the region for our low spoilage numbers, as I knew how to properly utilize other departments' cold food. We were killing it, and it was no joke because of myself, my assistant, and our chef. Anyways, team leader is raking me over the coals in front of the store lead. They even asked me if I was too prideful to ask for help. So I was like, hey, is this about the list of items? I showed them my paper with the exact items in question, which took the store leader by surprise. Then I brought up the email I had sent and had gotten no response to. The store lead had no idea about this email, and I could see his demeanor had changed. So after the meeting, I went downstairs and forwarded that email to the store leader and his assistant, making sure to add that if my team leader doesn't trust me to do my job, then we have a more pressing issue to discuss. I later received an apology from the store leader in person, seeing as he did not know all of the details and only what the team leader had said to him. Things got very awkward after that. I did not see or speak to my team leader in person for maybe over a week, and shortly after, she put in her resignation. Not long after, her assistant was promoted to team leader. This part is kind of unrelated, but I'll tell it anyway. The gal who got promoted was friends with another coworker's mother, so this certain coworker had inside knowledge. Apparently, one night, the new team lead and that girl's mother were having beers, and the coworker overheard some gossip. Apparently, the store lead had promised her the promotion if she would find any reason she could to fire the chef, and that interviews would merely be a formality. And she certainly did find a reason. In fact, one day I walked into our shift with the chef who had purchased a new stereo speaker for the kitchen with his own money. Funny enough, when we walked in together, him having the large speaker in hand, our store leader saw us and was vocally excited for the kitchen and thankful chef would even do such a thing. See, the old speaker had died and the purchase of a new one was deemed not important, so the cooks and stuff were working in silence for a long time. When chef eventually did get fired, that was the reason that was cited, that it was inappropriate for him to have gone behind the store's back to purchase the speaker. Anyways, to finish off the story, after chef got fired, my job became a nightmare. They didn't hire a new chef for ages and didn't think it was necessary or important to fill that role ASAP. It was his communication to me that even made my job possible. I could not write out prep lists as I had no idea how much of what they needed per day to prep. It was kind of nuanced. I was just the numbers man, and he really helped me out a lot. Eventually one morning, I put my 2 weeks notice in writing on my new team lead's desk. This caused a firestorm of chaos. See, my job allowed our department to take in millions of dollars a year, and I was doing great at it. Nobody in the store had any idea how to do my job, not even the grocery buyers. I dealt with perishables and a menu that changed every 2 weeks. I had gotten my systems down flawlessly. I had created all of the ordering sheets. I knew where to get each item from each different vendor, when the orders were due, when they had come in, all of the non-perishables like packaging and stuff, plus the local vendors for obscure items, since the store made such a huge deal about selling local. I'll tell you a secret, they don't care about buying local, they just know it sells great. Like I said, it was a panic. First, they offered me a healthy raise, to which I told the store leader no amount of money could keep me there. They asked why I was leaving, and I was totally honest. I told him I knew about the little backdoor deal he had with our new team leader and how Chef got fired, even throwing in his face that I was there that day he brought the speaker in and how he was super excited for us about it. He assured me there was no such conspiracy and that our chef was essentially what he called a dissenter, that his attitude did not reflect the store's core values. It was all BS. They eventually begged me to make it a 4-week notice so that I could get a new guy as much time as possible to get trained up. We did the interviews, hired my replacement, and I got to training. That's when my assistant quit, and I had to train a new buyer assistant as well. It got interesting because once the new guy officially got my job title, he then started treating me as unimportant. He was much older than me, so I wasn't going to fight him on it. In his pride of having his new title, his attitude changed and his behavior. He felt he could handle it, so I gave him the reins and let him go at it. By my last few days, he was uninterested in any training I could offer him, and because of his reluctance to listen to me, orders were either too big or too short. A few orders didn't get placed in time, things weren't getting put away right, stock rotation wasn't happening, so a lot of items were getting spoiled, etc. That's when I left. From my friends who work there still, I heard his attitude didn't take him very far and that he was replaced within a few months with a guy who had trained me. And last I heard, he only stayed maybe a month after inheriting that mess. That's about all I can tell you because that's about all I know. I don't really talk to anyone who works there anymore. Get your own dang spoon. So I used to work in a really big whiskey bar in my town that also catered for dinner and coffee/cake sort of things. I had worked there for a couple years, so I guess I was recognizable to a few people and maybe some that hadn't realized I had moved on. I was really good friends with all the staff in there, so I used to come in for a pint and a chat occasionally. The uniform in the whiskey bar is black shirt/tee and black bottoms. And being a bar person, I happen to wear an awful lot of black on a daily basis, even in my newer job, which is casual dress. So this one evening, I call in for a drink, and I'm sitting at the bar, waiting for the bartender to finish serving this woman next to me. After about 10 seconds, I realize she's absolutely going out of her way to make life a living heck for the server. She's trying to pay for a bunch of stuff separately, but wants specific changes for each thing, for reasons unknown. And while the guy serving her is doing everything to accommodate her, she creates a new problem with every interaction. Complains that there's too much coins/not enough coins, the cream on the coffee doesn't look nice enough, etc., and gets quite rude and aggressive, sending her server running back and forth. A bit bizarre. The bartender is a chill guy and does his best to meet her requirements and offers the 2 Irish coffees she just ordered on the house by way of apology for not understanding her. She mutters something under her breath along the lines of, "Yeah, dang right," while outwardly expressing her impatience by huffing and tapping her phone loudly on the counter. The bartender serves the drinks and smiles, apologizing again. I'm sitting at the end of the bar near where the sugars, spoons, and milk for coffee is, in my black ensemble. The woman turns to me and just says, "Spoon," without looking at me. "Excuse me?" I reply, taken a bit back. "Give me a dang spoon," she says, right in my face. I looked her dead in the eye and I responded, "I don't work here." I ordered my beer and she went a marvelous shade of red and scuffled off back into whichever pit she had ascended from. She never got her dang spoon. So Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Tch, re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
Pah, they're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, Or Karen,
What?
to record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never!
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will!